Good evening and welcome to the regularly scheduled meeting of the Planning Commission, April 2nd, 2025. It is currently 6:01 p.m. Thank you. Let's take roll.
Commissioner Bowie?
Yes.
Commissioner Hamade?
Here.
Vice Chair Anderson?
Here.
Chair Wolbert?
And I'm here.
Chair, you have a quorum.
Fantastic. If you wouldn't mind, please stand and join me in saying the Pledge of Allegiance. Ready? Begin.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. You may be seated. Item number 3, any reports from Planning Secretary on late communication items?
There are no late communication
Fantastic. Item number 4, ex parte communications. This section is intended to allow all officials the opportunity to reveal any disclosures regarding site visits or ex parte communications about the public hearing or regular business items. Do we have anything from the dais?
Yes, I have a chance to visit the location on 14200 Beach Boulevard and also the location on 8990 Bonsa Avenue for case number 0220.
Thank you.
I drove by it as well.
Yep, and I went by the 3 public hearing sites.
All right, and I actually went by the one on item 8.1. I did not get a chance to get to the other 2. All right, we'll move on to agenda item number 5. Any special presentations tonight? I don't think we do have any, correct? Okay, great. Item number 6, oral communications. Clerk, if you wouldn't mind, could you read the procedure into record?
This is a time of the meeting that members of the public may address the Planning Commission on matters of public interest, which pertains to the city and are within the subject matter jurisdiction of the Planning Commission. Members of the public wishing to address public hearing items shall do so at the time of the public hearing. Unless extended by a majority vote of the Planning Commission, comments shall be limited to 3 minutes per speaker. To address the Planning Commission, please complete a blue request to speak form that is provided at the entrance to the council chambers and submit the form to the Planning Commission clerk. When your name is called, please step to the podium at that time and state your name and city of residence for the record.
All right, do we have any requests to speak forms for oral communication?
We have one speaker, Terry Rentz.
Hello, Terry Raines, Westminster. It's a darn good thing True Life requested a postponement of their project's public hearing leading to the cancellation of your last meeting, because the one actionable item for that hearing, the resolution with the conditions of approval, was not even placed in your agenda binders. You can't approve something you didn't get. Can you imagine if this blunder had unfolded live at the hearing, which could have caused a mistrial of sorts? Another note to staff, when this commission approves something to present to the city council, you must present it to the council exactly as it's approved here. This is a pretty heavy agenda. Is that why the promised update on Lavender on Beach Boulevard that Vice Chair Anderson requested is not agendized? Nothing on the Secretary of State or Orange County fictitious business name websites reflect the business being sold, as staff said. David Vo's company was terminated by the Franchise Tax Board last year. The 3 commissioners who approved their revised CUP for a Type 47, Wolbert, Hamadi, and Bowie, were wrong to do so. Serious violations continue, new owner or not, selling or allowing the consumption of hard liquor on site, allowing minors to enter and remain, and using third-party promoters. Thank you, Vice Chair Anderson, for your no vote last year and for staying on top of this. You're being asked to approve minutes for February 21st, 2024 meeting. In early March, I emailed staff to report 5 2023 and 24 meetings with no minutes posted online, but received no reply. Soon after, the missing minutes for 2 2023 meetings were posted, but 123 and 124 are still missing. Any gross delay in approving minutes is problematic. If a new commission is seated, how can new commissioners approve minutes for meetings they weren't present for? The City Council grossly delayed new commission appointments and violated policy and the municipal code in the process. Councilman Mark Wynn refused to reappoint a qualified incumbent, Laura Rose, who has served with honor since Kimberly Ho appointed her last year. I really hope none of you had any part of that. Mark went against the community and appointed his friend, Charles Wynn, who applied late, but Charles flaked at the last minute. Instead of redeeming himself and appointing Laura, Mark appointed another late applicant, Non-Tron. Staff improperly listed Charles on your last agenda. He was never even sworn in. Appointments shouldn't be political, and there should be no collusion to appoint puppets who will vote a certain way for chair or vice chair, for example. Only Commissioners Anderson and Rose applied before the initial December 31st deadline. Before non and Charles, Mark appointed John Gentile, who didn't even apply for planning. But after speaking to Laura, John resigned thinking Laura would then be reappointed, but she was not. And that is a real travesty. Some of you failed to show up for this job with your chronic absenteeism in violation of the city's municipal code, failing to read your staff reports, asking ridiculous questions, and even providing off-base commentary that could even cause our city to get sued. Several qualified, passionate, and timely applicants were passed over so you could be reappointed. A real travesty indeed.
Thank you. Any further speakers?
No, we do not.
All right. That being said, I will go ahead and close oral communication. We'll move on to item number 7, which is approval of minutes. We have 3 minutes that we need approved tonight or go through. That's February 21st, 2024, February 5th, 2025, and March 5th, 2025. Any motions on the floor?
Move to approve.
I second.
We have a motion by Vice Chair Anderson, seconded by Commissioner Hamade, to approve the minutes of the February 21st, 2024, February 5th, 2025, and March 5th, 2025 regular meetings. Commissioner Bowie?
Yes.
Commissioner Hamade?
Yes.
Vice Chair Anderson?
Yes.
Chair Wolbert?
Yes.
4-0, motion carries.
Fantastic. We'll move on to agenda item number 8, which is the public hearing. And clerk, if you wouldn't mind, read that record into the procedure into record one more time. Thank you.
Anyone wishing to speak on an open public hearing should complete a blue request to speak form that is provided at the entrance of the council chambers and submit the form to the Planning Commission clerk. When your name is called, please step to the podium and state your name and city of residence for the record. Each attendee will have 3 minutes to comment on each public hearing item. The applicant or their designee will have 12 minutes to speak and will also be provided a 3-minute rebuttal. With exception of the applicant or designee, all attendants may only speak once. The Planning Commission may use its discretion to allow a speaker to exceed the allotted time or may ask a speaker to return to answer additional questions.
Thank you so much. We will move on to agenda item 8.1, case number 2024-0300, conditional use permit. I'll turn it over to staff.
Perfect. Thank you, Chair Wolbert, and good evening, Commissioners. Ken Fichtelman, Principal Planner. The first item up tonight is case 2024-0300. This is a conditional use permit to approve to operate a private pickleball and golf simulator club at 14200 Beach Boulevard. So just a very little bit of background. This is the former site of Sam Ash Music right around the corner from City Hall. The site is in the mixed-use 40 zone, and the applicant is requesting a conditional use permit at this time. Here's an overhead of the site. The space they are looking at is 21,045 square feet. All surrounding properties, including the subject property and across Beach Boulevard, are zoned mixed-use 40. So as stated, the applicant is requesting a conditional use permit for a private pickleball and golf simulator club. The project has no exterior tenant improvements except for maybe some like paint freshening up the place, but no construction improvements. Hours of operation they're looking at is 7 a.m. until 10 p.m., 7 days a week. This is a floor plan for the club. If you see, they have 8 pickleball courts, and I guess for those of you who don't know, pickleball is kind of a newer upcoming sport. It's a lot like tennis, slower though, and a smaller court. So they're also including 3 golf simulators along the back of the building. These are, if you're familiar with Topgolf at all, they have sensors and cameras that track your ball flight and can accurately show that on a screen where you can show whatever golf course you want to be playing at that time. There will also be a fairly large putting green of around 1,200 square feet in the back near the golf simulators. A few chairs for people waiting for courts to free up, and a sales and reception desk at the front door. As far as land use compatibility, so this use is not specifically listed in the WMC. Pickleball is a fairly new thing which the code did not account for. The director, looking at the code and looking at the use, has deemed that the use is similar to bowling. We came to that conclusion because a bowling alley and a pickleball court have similar space requirements and a number of participants per court. So we are using a CUP because a bowling in the MU zone would be, a CUP would be required. Parking, the sports club would need 27 spaces. The other tenant at that space, Lavender, requires 55 parking spaces. The parcel contains 122 parking spaces, so we are looking at an excess of parking per the municipal code. The project is exempt from CEQA per Section 15301 existing facilities. They're not making any changes to the building. Everything is interior, so it qualifies for the CEQA exemption. So staff recommends that the commission adopt Resolution 25006, approving case 2024-300, approving a conditional use permit to operate a private pickleball and golf simulator club at 14200 Beach Boulevard. With that, that's staff's presentation. I'm here to answer any questions. We also have the applicant in the building as well.
Thank you. Commissioner Hawadi, did you have
Yeah,
something?
I'm getting excuse myself as my residence is in the 500 radius. I cannot vote on this.
Thank you.
I have the questions.
Go ahead.
Regarding the parking space, have they had any, to require any studies on parking at that place? I know that you have more parking than required.
No.
Is that true?
We did not require a study because they are so overparked at that location per the municipal code. So per the municipal code, the pickleball courts, any racket sport actually has a parking requirement, which is 2 spaces per court. So we're using that directly. That is 8 courts, 16 spaces. We use the same number for the golf simulator since it's roughly the same number of people as would be allowed on a pickleball court. And then they also had some open space, and that added 6 parking spaces for the golf simulator and an additional 5 spaces for the extra room in there. So they're coming in, and I can go back to the slide for you. Even considering Lavender, per the municipal code, they need 82 spaces. There are 122 parking spaces on site, so they are well overparked.
I see. Thank you.
Yes, I had a question, Ken. On the Planning Commission resolution, item 10 says any exterior facade improvement shall require compliance with the Westminster Police Department's exterior building lighting standards. Are there any other, do we have any other standards, design standards or design guidelines that would require, that would have to comply with?
If they were proposing extensive exterior modifications, there is a mixed-use design standard. But at this point, they're not, which is why we didn't include that as a condition.
Okay.
And since it's an already adopted ordinance, we don't need to include code sections or ordinances. They have to follow those anyways, so we don't need to include those as conditions of approval.
Okay, good. So the city has the control that they will comply.
If they were looking to extensively remodel the exterior, yes, we have controls in place.
Okay, thank you.
Your staff report said that the hours of operation are 7 a.m. to 10, but in the resolution, item number 9 says 6 a.m. to 10 p.m.
We gave them the extra hour, and this was, that is what they've told us is 7 to 10. We've talked among staff, and we're not sure we want to lock them into 7. 6 o'clock is a pretty standard hour if you're going to start golfing or playing tennis, so we put that in that they could open that hour early, especially because that hour wouldn't affect operations or affect the public well-being or security. So we're basically giving them an extra hour because even though they didn't ask for it, we think it may be beneficial to the community.
Any other questions for staff?
I have a question regarding the announcement to the public within 500 feet radius. Did you comply with that?
We applied with all noticing requirements for the project.
All right. Thank you.
Nothing else?
All right, if that's all the questions for staff, I'd like to go ahead and open up the public hearing. Do we have any requests for speaker forms?
Did the applicant?
So we should have the applicant come up first.
Yeah.
Good evening.
Hello.
Hi. I just want to take opportunity to introduce myself. My name is Nghị Lê, and I've been working with the city staff to turn in the application and hope to convert this business into the indoor pickleballs, because right now it's a sport that is from all ages that actually is working and enjoying playing the pickleballs. And and second, that we take an opportunity to make sure that this is the good location within the city, and we want to build the image and the business and working with the city to make sure that all benefits in the operation that we have in the future. You have any questions for me to answer?
Sure, we can use the rest of your 11 minutes left to ask questions. Tony, you have any questions for the applicant?
Yes, I learned about the project here, and I used to be a pickleball player at Sickler Park, and I know that we have the city have 3 courts there, and it's always busy with a lot of people. And also they have the project plan to convert 2 tennis courts at Tony Lamb Park into 6 pickleball park. However, it has not been approved or has not been proceeding yet. So I think that with your project, is it open to the public without any restriction, except it is a club? That means people come in with...
Right now, we offer as membership for the people that come and join the business with us. But we talking to the board of directors that we probably in the future, we open like 1 or 2 days and then public come in. And especially we believe that if we can promote this sport for kids, come in, so we can allocate 1 day a year to do the tournaments, and kids can come and we can promote and working with them, and that will be open to public.
Thank you.
So membership now, and
Right.
then open to the public later?
Well, right now it depends, because we have to run the business and make sure that we make money before we open to public on serving the public. But this is where I strongly believe in promoting the sport with the youth club, and that's where I aim to have the public for that kind of group age and activities. But in the future, we may open to public, but it depends on the demands or on the availability on the business hours.
Okay. Do you have any other businesses like this, or is this will this be the first one?
Well, this is the first one, and this is as a business, as an investor, we see there is a high demand, and this would be the first location within the city of Westminster that have the indoor pickleballs. And I strongly believe that, this could be something that we can proud to present to all the residents that, we now have the indoor pickleballs within the city of Westminster.
Okay. Thank you.
Staff included an item number 6 on the resolution for your conditional use permit that says no alcohol shall be served within the business unless a CUP is granted to the business. Was this part of your discussions with the city about alcohol being served on the premises?
No, sir. This is purely for the sport operation.
Okay.
If I may, Chair, that's just a condition we approved because we entered into the resolution because a lot of these clubs do take on alcohol sales. So we're just putting it there to let people know it's prevented, and an additional permit would be required if they wanted to move in that direction.
Are your membership dues subject to sales tax?
That would be something that I need to work with the city, and they have to educate us more into the sales tax and whatsoever that we need to comply.
Okay. I mean, we are looking at a 21,000 retail space that could generate sales tax for the city in a retail location. I know it's a mixed-use district, but you're asking us to take 21,000 square feet of existing retail that is closed down and convert that to a non-sales tax generating business. Do you see any concerns with that?
Well, that's something that I would love to talk to the city. So we will have the membership fee, and that's something that we can work out with the city to, we'll love to give a donate to the city for that part of the business.
Any other questions for the applicant?
No.
I think that's a good business if it promotes the people to participate in sport. And even the small kids or old people like me have a chance to work out and reduce the risk of old age risk. I appreciate that.
Don't forget to eat your protein, Tony. All right. I think with no more questions for the applicant, thank you very much for your time.
Thank you, Commissioners.
I know you have some other speaker cards. If we want to take the first speaker, that'd be great.
We have Resident Terry Raines.
Hold on. Hello, Terry Raines. My first question is for staff. Government Code 65905 states a public hearing shall be held for an application for a conditional use permit. The staff report does not claim otherwise or that this COP is being administratively approved, so why wasn't this public hearing notice or the one for 8.2 and 8.3 published in the Westminster Herald? Table 6.2 under WMC section 17.630.10 indicates NA for publication in the case of an administrative discretionary review of a CUP. Best practice would be to publish all Planning Commission public hearings and notices in the Herald. The project is a member-only private club with 8 regulation-sized pickleball courts, 3 golf simulators, and a putting green with approximately 120 square feet of sales and check-in area. The staff report states the hours of operation, as was stated, are 7 a.m. to 10 p.m., 7 days a week, so why does condition 9 state 6 a.m. to 10 p.m., and since when does staff offer something that isn't requested? Because the noise, and I'll get into that later. Condition number 6 could be worded better. If it states no alcohol shall be served within the business unless a conditional use permit is granted to the business, it should say unless a CUP is granted to the business for this express purpose and a state liquor license is obtained. Honestly, this is not the best and highest use for this MU40 zone property. Doesn't seem like the city will benefit as much because membership fees will not likely be taxable and any sales on site will likely be minimal, plus no increased property taxes because no building improvements are being done that would cause a reassessment. But it's a good indoor use that people who live close to parks with outdoor pickleball courts rightfully complain about the noise. Having these courts 100% contained indoors minimizes the local impacts. Staff likens this use to a bowling alley use allowed in MU40 zoning, but bowling alleys are typically open to the public and not private membership-only clubs. This use, except for the parking, is closer to an indoor health fitness facility or a private recreational facility. Both permitted uses in the MU40 that require paid memberships to use. But yes, this will require less parking than those other 2 permitted uses. The staff report states the general plan for this area encourages a mix of land uses and development types to create a vibrant civic environment where community members can engage with each other and connect with their community. Yes, this will provide an entertainment and fitness option for residents only for those that pay for the privilege. The interactive map on the city's website shows the current permitted land use as type 278 store building. Doesn't sound like that's going to be changed with this. Bottom line is I do support this project and I thank the applicant for bringing this unique use to our city and thank you. And again, back on the hours, because pickleball, it's contained indoors, so hopefully the noise won't be a problem. But I've just never heard of staff saying, we're going to put in an extra hour for your operating hours than what you requested. I think the applicant knows what they need. Thank you.
We don't have any more speakers.
All right. Thank you. Unless somebody has any more questions for any of the public speakers.
I have a request. Thank you for presenting your opinion and concern. Would you please provide us a copy of whatever you read to us here for our record? Because that will be helpful for the future for reference of whatever you read in front of us here. I request to have a copy, or at least we make a picture of whatever you read. All right?
Yeah, Chair, I do have another question for the applicant, if that, since the public
Sure.
hearing is still open. If
Absolutely.
Yes, you mentioned it is a membership only, but anybody can join?
Yes, sir.
It's open to everybody?
Open to everyone.
To join?
Yes.
And this is similar to a health club? Health clubs have memberships?
This is not a health club.
No,
It's-
but I'm saying, health clubs have memberships, correct? If you go to the various health clubs?
But this is sport club. But
yeah.
I don't understand the question.
Well, membership, I'm just relaying it to membership.
Okay.
So they have membership, you have membership, correct? So it's just simple. That's all I had. Thank you.
Right. Okay.
I think what Vice Chair Anderson was saying, like, if you want to go to 24-hour fitness or another health club, you pay a membership, you pay a monthly due. It's similar with your business, correct?
Right, exactly, yeah.
But it's still open to the public in the sense
Walk
that
in.
anyone from the public
Yeah.
can go apply for a membership.
Exactly, right.
Thank you.
Thank you.
If that's the final question, I'd like to go ahead and close the public hearing. Now's the time, commissioners, if you have questions, statements, we can ask things of staff if we need to, or give us your opinions on item 8.1.
Yeah, Ken, Ms. Raines mentioned something about the public hearing notice on this. Was that pertaining to this, or did you catch that? Or-
This was noticed as we need to for a CUP.
Can you explain to some of the commissioners and myself why it doesn't need to be published in here? And here, because I know a couple of commissioners had the same question. So could you explain what state statute provides that exception? Because I couldn't find one.
I couldn't answer that off the top of my head.
So in the land use tables in our municipal code book, we do have a table that has list of items. Conditional use permit does not require to be published.
State law does. 6295
And-
requires it, and we're just.
So the question here, and I want to make sure that
This
we
would
make-
honestly be a better question for Rosemary if she could answer that, because I am not as familiar with state codes like that, because that's what the municipal codes are based on. We don't get into that aspect of code. We hire somebody to do that for us.
So our city code states that we have to notice the public within a 500-foot radius of the project, but it doesn't necessarily require publishing in a local newspaper. Is that correct?
We
At
post
least on a
at-
conditional use permit.
We send out a mailer 500 feet. We post at the site, which there was a notice on the front door, and we post at the required public locations. That is what we are required to do per code.
Okay, and city attorney state law is slightly different, correct?
No, actually, that's 5905.
Thank you for that. The noticing requirement, it requires mailers to the folks who are directly impacted within that zone. And the notice is of the public hearing, and there are differences between notices of a public hearing versus noticed publication. There are different government statutes that govern the two. And the mailers and posting on-site and providing the noticed agenda is the notice requirement that is associated with this conditional use permit.
Thank you for the explanation. Don, any other questions?
No.
Any statements? Tony, any questions? No.
And Chair, if I may, because this has come up twice, the applicant didn't ask for the extra hour. We are trying to expand as a department, and for uses like this where there's really no adverse public impact, we saw no reason to make the applicant, what we're trying to avoid is the applicant working, going, you know what, people want to come in earlier, and them having to actually amend their conditional use permit. So we added the extra hour based on kind of department talk about when that kind of sporting normally starts, and we're trying to be business friendly by doing that so that the applicant doesn't have to come back and amend a conditional use permit. This is not uncommon. I've done this in other cities where because a conditional use permit doesn't necessarily even run with the business, it runs with the property. So we are doing what we believe allows the applicant, possibly some flexibility and doesn't hurt the community at that point. So if this was for a liquor license, yes, we wouldn't be that friendly. But for something like this where you'd be hard pressed to find an adverse public impact, this should be more common practice so that we are getting projects where applicants aren't constantly having to come back for little changes.
Just in response to the concerns about sales tax, and that's always a concern. Sales tax is the single largest source of revenue for the city. But I think, too, we need to look a little beyond that in this case, and that is this will bring people in to the area. And there are retail establishments within the area where these people, I'm thinking, are going to either eat, buy merchandise, and invest in the city in that way. So I think there is still a benefit here. And it's a very popular sport. So I'm certainly comfortable with it.
Yeah, I know. For me personally, usually these kind of health clubs have been popping up in industrial zone. So they're getting conditional use permits with inside either non-used industrial buildings or abandoned industrial buildings. In local areas, we don't have a lot of industrial here in this city, which is another downside. But it is kind of interesting idea to take a health club type of role within a very, very extremely popular sport at this point in time. And as Commissioner Bowie pointed out, even the city is making adjustments to our parks to accommodate this type of sport. So it seems like it's in very high demand. And because it's in high demand, to your point, Don, it can draw in people. And, I'm sure Uncle Pete's would love to have some more breakfast customers down the street, to your point. So any other comments or questions or any motions on the floor?
I would like to make a motion.
I'll second.
So a motion for approval of the resolution?
Yes.
Yes.
And second agrees with that.
We have a motion by Commissioner Bowie, seconded by Vice Chair Anderson, to approve conditional use permit 2024-0300, a request to operate a private pickleball and golf simulator club at 14200 Beach Boulevard within the mixed-use 40 MU40 zone through the adoption of Resolution 25-006, Attachment 1, subject to the attached conditions of approval. Commissioner Bowie?
Yes.
Commissioner Hamade? Vice Chair Anderson?
Yes.
Chair Wolbert?
Yes.
3-0, motion carries.
Staff, would you like to read the clarification?
Sorry, still getting used to being in this position. So the commission's action on this item shall become effective 15 days after the decision date identified in a notice of decision. The applicant and/or any interested party may file an appeal of the commission's action to the city council. The appeal must be in writing and filed with the city clerk within the previously mentioned 15-day period.
Thank you. Welcome back, Commissioner Hamadi. Let's go ahead and move on to agenda item 8.2, which is a conditional use permit, case number 2024-0220. I will go ahead and turn it over to staff.
All right. Thank you again, Commissioners. This was originally prepared by Mimi Torrio, our assistant planner. She is unfortunately out of the office at this time, so I will be presenting in her stead. So, Commissioners, we have before you case 2024-0220. This is an application to upgrade an existing off-sale beer and wine license. That's an ABC Type 20 to an off-sale general license, ABC Type 21, at an existing convenience store, including a public convenience or necessity determination as required by the California Department of Alcohol Beverage Control. Background for you, so this is an existing convenience store tied to a Shell gas station at 8990 Bolsa Avenue. They currently have an existing CUP to allow for the Type 20 ABC license that is just beer and wine off sale. We have the site here on the map for you. It's on the southwest corner. I want to say northwest really bad there. On the southwest corner of Magnolia and Bolsa Avenue. It is zoned mixed-use 40. The surrounding area is also zoned mixed-use 40 and is a mix of commercial and residential, normally with commercial directly on the street and residential behind it, although there are some condos across Bolsa which are directly on Bolsa. So the applicant is requesting a conditional use permit to change their ABC license to a Type 21. That's off-sale general. That means there is no limit on what they can sell. Any alcoholic beverage they can sell for off-sale purchase. That would include hard liquors, pre-mixed drinks, and beer and wine. Because of this change, the project does require a new conditional use permit. In addition, ABC, the Alcoholic Beverage Commission, requires the city to make a public convenience or necessity determination before they will issue a license. In this case, it is because the census tract where this location will be located is oversaturated. And we'll get into that in a few slides. Here's the floor plan for the proposed market. They're going to do some interior renovations to allow for more coolers. Beverages with an ABV of under 15%, that's an alcohol by volume percentage, would be kept in the walk-in fridges. So that would include beers, wines, pre-mixed cocktails. Spirits with an ABV above 15% would be kept in a locked cabinet behind the cashier. These are the other nearby licenses. These are not all in the same census tract. So the 4 to the west are all in the same census tract as the subject. The 7-Eleven across the street is a different census tract, but it is diagonally across the street, so we thought it was important to include. Please be aware that the next item you will hear is in the exact same application from that business. So the public convenience or necessity determination is something required by ABC. In this case, we have to make the PCN determination when census tracts are over-concentrated. The subject census tract allows for 4 off-sale licenses. This doesn't mean there's too many. The census tracts are allocated a certain number of alcohol licenses by ABC. This is a combination of current population, proposed population growth, zoning of the property, so there's a lot that goes into it. It is very common to see over-concentrated areas in commercial areas. So anywhere where you're gonna have a lot of restaurants, a lot of stores, you tend to get over-concentrated areas. They're not bad of themselves, but it is something that ABC requires this extra determination before they will issue a liquor license. So that census tract is allowed 4 off-sale licenses per their numbers. The tract currently has 6 off-sale licenses. It is important to note that this project will not add a license to that. It will simply transition from one license from a type 20 to a type 21. But because it's over-concentrated, that still does require the PCN determination. Adding the type 21 at this location allows for one-stop shopping, so it keeps people from having to go to more than one location. They can go in there, get gas, buy whatever they need, get what they want to drink, and leave rather than having to go to multiple stores. We did, as always, query PD about any alcohol license. Westminster Police Department has had few calls for service at the site. They recommended conditions of approval, which are included in the resolution, in order to deal with any perceived or possible issues. The project is exempt from CEQA per section 15301 existing facilities. They're not proposing any changes. Exterior and interior modifications are just the addition of some extra fridges and a locked cabinet. With that, staff recommends that the Planning Commission adopt Resolution 25-005, approving case 2024-0220. I am here to answer any questions, and we also have the applicant here if you have any questions for the applicant.
Thank you very much. We'll go ahead and, any questions for staff at this time?
I have a question. Will the indoor will be similar to the liquor store, like the bottles all locked behind in a cage, not reachable by anyone with the, like you cannot just walk there, right?
Any spirit liquor with an alcohol by volume of greater than 15%, there's a condition that they have to keep it in a locked cabinet behind the cashier.
Okay.
Anything below 15%, they would be able to keep in the walk-in fridges.
Okay, will it be reachable by someone just walk in directly to
No,
it?
it's behind the cashier.
Okay.
I have a question. I read the plan AS 101, and I saw 2 fuel pumps on the front and 2 fuel pumps in the back. Are those a new installment?
No, there is no change with this project. The only thing that the commission is hearing is the request for the alcohol, or the CUP for alcohol and the public convenience and necessity. So there are no changes proposed with this project. If it is approved, the applicant will have to put in some new indoor fridges, the pull fridges so you can grab a beer or whatever, and the cabinet. But those would be covered under a separate building permit later.
I see. Thank you.
As you stated that they're going to add more fridges, don't they have now existing license 20 that is supposed to have fridges already anyway for the beer?
They're going to widen their
So
selection
they're
of what
going
they
to
would
add
carry.
more to it, simple.
Yeah, so right now they're just carrying beer and wine, and that's all they have in the
So
fridges.
they're going to expand the business, make it bigger, and then add
They're
more
not,
beer.
the square footage is not changing. This is just interior.
inside,
They just
yeah,
want to
inside.
add an extra fridge
Yeah.
for the full line of alcoholic, they're called RTD drinks, ready to drink. So right now, because of their alcohol, their license type, if there's like, for instance, a seltzer that is vodka-based, they cannot carry that. That requires a type 21.
Okay.
Doesn't even mean the alcohol content is any different. It's just because it has a hard liquor base in it, it requires a type 21 over a type 20. So they are adding a fridge or two so they can expand their offerings, but their footprint is not expanding. This is all being done within the existing building.
Got it.
So the refrigeration they're adding, that would be for those items above 15% by volume?
No, it'd be for only items below 15%.
And so, but they're adding more space for the items below 15%?
They are proposing extra fridges, but yeah, that will be handled under building permits.
And that doesn't require a CUP if they want to expand for that?
It requires a CUP because they want to carry the hard alcohol RTD drinks.
Right.
If they were just adding fridges and just keeping beer and wine, we'd have to look at their original conditions of approval. Sometimes conditions of approval are, they have a amount of space they're allowed to keep for, alcohol in fridges, whatever. We didn't look into that as much because they're actually replacing that CUP, so it'd become irrelevant if this one is approved and they act on it.
Okay, thank you.
May I have another question? Yes, I read your plan on A100, and I saw the plan with the restroom at the corner, and it didn't label, is it existing or new one?
Everything is existing except for the fridges and the cabinet.
All right.
Everything else is already built.
And this restroom, according to code, does it need to be specially serving the public or only for the people inside? Because when you serve the public, they at least sometime on emergency case, they need to use the restroom. Are there any ways to help the people if they need it?
I couldn't answer that because that's beyond the scope of what we're looking at today. We didn't go back and look at issues that were already built. All we were looking at was the alcohol license.
All right.
All right.
That's it. I'm waiting for your finding.
Yeah, I think that's probably out of the scope of what we're looking for. I had one question about the Type 20 and Type 21 licenses. The Type 20 is specifically beer and wine. Are there seltzers or anything else that's new on the market? Everybody's drinking these White Claws or whatever. Are those included under beer and wine in a Type 20, or does that automatically require Type 21?
So yes and no. Okay. So those lines of like the seltzers, a majority of them you can sell under a Type 20 because they are wine usually based. So anything wine based, anything beer based, Type 20 is fine. There are a growing number of not only seltzers, but you can find small cans of like Seagram's Gin and Tonic or whatever rum and Coke that are pre-mixed.
Right.
If they want to sell the hard liquor-based seltzers or any of those hard liquor-based RTD drinks, they have to have the Type 21.
Like a ranch water. That's a big buzzword going around. A ranch water is made with tequila and seltzer. So
Yeah.
a Type 20 would not include that, regardless of what the ABV is.
Correct. So, there are beers you can get that are up to 20% ABV. Most of these RTD drinks are between 5 and 10. But this would give them the ability to sell bottles of vodka, gin, rum, whatever, as well.
But under a Type 20, they are allowed to sell a limited array of seltzers already and those
It's-
type of ready to.
It's whatever the base liquor is. So if it's wine or beer-based, they can sell it. As soon as you move up into being spirit-based, you have to have a type 21 to sell those.
Understood. Any other questions for staff before we open the public hearing? We're good? Okay, let's go ahead and bring up the applicant, please.
Steve Rawlings, please.
Hey, good evening.
Good evening.
My name is Steve Rawlings. I am a consultant to the Jackson's Food Stores Corporation. I help them with permits and licenses to sell alcohol throughout the state of California. We're here this evening. Ken did a fabulous job of explaining why we're here this evening, and I do want to reiterate, I've enjoyed working with your staff, a very, very professional group, and they've done an excellent job in the presentation here. I wanted to add just a couple of things and also discuss a couple of the conditions of approval. So the driver on these are these ready-to-drink beverages. The normal White Claws and Trulies that have become very popular in the last 10 years are beer or malt based, so we can sell those under a Type 20 license. However, White Claw and Truly and all these other manufacturers of this have come up with products that might be called the lime margarita or the vodka soda, and they actually use as an ingredient distilled spirits. Even though the alcohol by volume is not much different than what their other product is or what a typical Modelo beer would be, they're all around 5% there. Because the ingredient is a distilled spirits, ABC is requiring a Type 21. So that's the real driver for this particular request, and I'm representing other convenience store operators because there's a lot of consumer demand because they taste good and we want to be able to service the customers for that. So that's the driver. Any kind of bottles of alcohol, as Ken mentioned, would be behind the cashier in a locked cabinet. Nobody's going to get that, and it's not a very big space. In fact, the overall square footage that we're dedicating to the display of alcohol, including the coolers and the in the back there, represent about 2.7% of the overall store size. So it is intended to be an amenity. We're not looking to change the character of our business, which is to be a convenience store first, and we're going to continue to carry coffee and all the other things, and milk and eggs and all the other things that you're used to at a convenience store. So this is not looking to change this at all. It is just an opportunity for us to expand our product offering to meet customer demands. I did want to discuss, though, and I've discussed this with Ken, we don't currently have a prohibition of selling single cans of beer. You can go in there and you can purchase a single can of beer. Check the previous use permit. That was not included in there. ABC did not place any restrictions on the license to be able to do that. So that means you could go in and buy a 12-ounce can of beer as it stands right now. We've come in and made this application to be able to expand the use, and now the city has conditioned this project to not allow us to sell singles of beer. And that is something that is a product line that we like to sell. We have great customer demand for it. And I would, for your consideration, I would like to discuss this in a little bit more detail and give you a different perspective on it. Single cans of beer, when I've asked cities before and say, hey, why is there this resistance to allowing us to sell single cans of beers? I usually get two answers. One is, well, we don't want people to come in and buy one beer and then go down to the park and drink out of a brown paper bag. I get that. Nobody wants that, right? The second part of it is usually, well, hey, somebody buys a single can, they get in their car, they're more likely to consume it. I would like to offer this perspective. Somebody comes into the store and wants to purchase a 12-ounce beer or a 16-ounce, that's a very popular size, or even a 20-ounce beer. That's all they want. They didn't come in looking to purchase 3 12-ounce beers for 36 ounces. They just wanted to come in and buy one beer. And I find it, I'm challenged as a person and as a business consultant to understand what is being accomplished by restricting the sales of single beers. Because it's almost encouraging people to buy more alcohol than they actually want, which is a little counterintuitive to what I'm used to about, hey, we want to have a tempered society, and by making somebody buy, now you got to buy 3 12s, that's 36 ounces, whereas before, we could buy, I could just buy the 20-ounce Modelo that I wanted. I just take it home, there's a ball game on tonight, and I want to watch the ball game, and I just want 1 beer. I don't want all this other beer. So I offered to the city to say, hey, I understand that nobody wants to see somebody with a Schlitz malt liquor, Old English 840, the big quarts of it, which traditionally there have been members of the community, not necessarily this community, that buy those and then they go out to the park and drink it, and none of us want to see that, and we were trying to discourage that. I offered to the city to say, hey, why don't we look at the condition for what it is and say, we don't want to necessarily force somebody to buy more than they want. So I was offering to say, hey, why don't we say that I can sell singles under 24 ounces, but I can't sell them beyond that. At that point in time, you'd have to buy a 6-pack or a 3-pack or a 12-pack. Because to me, that makes a lot more sense than having somebody come in and I only want 12 ounces. And now all of a sudden I have to buy 36 ounces? I'm challenged to understand how that's a benefit to the city, the community. And when it comes to, driving and somebody potentially opening a beer, they're a lawbreaker. Every one of us knows you can't do that in the state of California. I don't even know if you can do it in any other state there. They're a lawbreaker. And I would submit to you that if you bought a cradle of 6 bottles, which are a manufactured prepackaged container, if somebody wants to break the law, you can just pull one out of there and just and open it. Tell you the honest truth, in the other beers that are wrapped in cellophane, a 3-pack, just take your car keys and just open it up. A lawbreaker, this is not a deterrent for somebody who's a lawbreaker. And I would, suggest to you that I don't think that the people that are patronizing our store or in this community are a bunch of lawbreakers. Once in a while it happens, somebody makes a bad decision, but that's hard for all of us to police. So I would ask for a modification of that condition, because again, I don't see how it serves the public in protecting us from things that we're looking to protect, which might be somebody loitering and drinking, or possibly opening one when they drive, and that it's a policy that encourages people to purchase more than what they actually intended to buy. And we have a track record of being able to sell singles. As Ken reported, the police department has had 0 issues at there. We don't have loitering that's going on there, and we haven't had any major issues at the store. And so we've got a track record. Now, mind you, Jackson's has owned the store since 2021, but the police reports were just from the last year. Jackson's has over 300 stores across the United States. If you went to, the western United States, if you went to Idaho, you'd see a lot of Jackson's. California, they own about 30 stores. And they have, it's a corporate store. They have policies, procedures, layers of management there, and they run a very, very clean shop, and they will continue. So I've been troubled by the idea that in order for us to be able to sell a product that's not a lot different than a beer, we lose our ability to sell what we've been able to sell. And I hope I've provided you with a perspective that says it might be a lot better to eliminate the larger size singles than it would the smaller singles. So with that, thank you very much for your attention on that, and I appreciate your consideration on that. And I'm available for any questions.
Thank you. Any questions for the applicant?
I have 2.
Go ahead.
I have 2 questions. One is relevant to the CUP, and one is irrelevant.
Okay.
Okay. The first one is, will you be putting a sign informing the public that you're going to be selling hard liquor?
I'm sorry, I didn't understand.
Okay, will you be putting a sign outside informing the public as they drive by or they walk by that you're selling hard liquor?
No, and is there a condition that prohibits, I think there's a condition that prohibits us from advertising outside of the thing, any alcohol, beer,
Okay.
or anything along those lines.
Condition 4 in the resolution says no exterior advertising or window signs shall advertise alcohol products,
Okay.
and no alcoholic beverage advertisement shall be located on the motor fuel island.
Great. Second one was relevant. You already sell cigarettes in the store already, right?
I believe so.
Do you sell vaping in there?
I do not believe that Jackson's does, but I'll be honest, I don't recall. When I went over to the store, I wasn't.
Yeah, I would like to know if you do sell vaping or not.
Pardon me?
I would like to know if you can let us know if they sell vaping in there or not.
I can try to text somebody if
Please.
we need an answer right here, but
Okay.
Commissioner Mate, just so you know too, selling vape products is not prohibited by any city code. So if they do, it would be irrelevant to the passage of the CUP.
Okay. So you can mix alcohol with vaping? Because vaping is a drug almost.
It is, the city has no prohibition on selling cigarettes or vape products. They are not classified as such by the state. So
Okay.
we don't have any special provisions.
Got it. Okay, thanks.
Any questions, Tony?
Have questions. I look at the plan that A100. I saw 3 beer container. That is new, totally new. Is that true? With the red hatching.
That is to, yes, indicate the location that the beer products or the cooler products are kept. In beer, there are some wines, there's obviously the seltzers, and some of these ready-to-drink beverages would be located in those coolers.
So this is additional to existing.
No, I don't believe so. I think that we already dedicate 3 coolers toward this product already. So we're actually not proposing to actually expand. We'll add a cabinet to the back of the, behind the cashier, but 3 coolers has provided essentially what we think that we need. We may expand to 4 coolers, but essentially there's no significant change. As I mentioned, we're not looking to change the character of the store. We still need to sell waters. We still need to sell energy drinks. We're selling coffees and so on and so forth. And those are big sales items for us. So we're certainly not going to compromise that.
Yes. So my question is, in that case, we have an increase of water consumption in terms of beer. And when you have more water in, then there will be more water out. We go, like ego, garbage in, garbage out. And this is water in, water out. That means more people will consume water, and the chance for them to have it out will be increasing. Henceforth, I suggest that put the existing water closet restroom for the public use by whoever use your service. They will have a coin to operate, to open the door, to use that. Because I know that three places in that corner, they always have the similar setup like you. But none of them are serving the public in case they need to use the water closet, the restroom.
I think the restroom operates as the gas station regulates it. So it's not necessarily, like, they're not increasing their floor space of what they're selling. You know what I mean? But I think they have a working restroom for the public. I think that's in the plan, right? You saw the restroom on the plan?
Most of the time they say they put a label not for public. So that is problems for the public who come as a customer for that facility.
Well, one of the reasons for controlling the bathrooms is there's primarily security reasons for controlling your bathrooms. You can't see what's going on in there, and obviously you're not allowed to see what's going on in there. And sometimes you get people in there for a long period of time, if there are people that know that there's always a bathroom there. Sometimes people just come to your business just to use your bathroom. And I don't see how that's really fair to a business that we're providing a public restroom. It's a different thing if it's a customer that's actually buying gas or in the convenience store to actually shop, but to just have it open to the public and say, hey, come on in and use our public restroom. We're not amenable to doing something like that. And that's not because we're bad people. It's just that, hey, we don't know what goes on in there, and we do have limited clerks, and it's kind of out of sight of the cashiers, and I think from a safety standpoint, it's far better for us to have controls on our own bathroom.
And correct me if I'm wrong, I mean, it's not illegal for someone to crack a water open and drink it inside your store
No.
when they pay for it, but it would be illegal for them to crack open an alcoholic beverage and consume it on site.
Absolutely.
So even if they consumed it in the parking lot while they were pumping gas, you still would have the obligation to notify the police that there is somebody consuming alcohol on your premises and potentially getting in their car and driving away.
Absolutely. And you do bring up a good point, because sometimes folks don't talk about the training that we have to do by law and then the training that we do as a corporation. Obviously, large corporations, unfortunately, are subject to lawsuits. And sometimes they're from your own employees. Well, always the best thing that everybody tells you to do is train your people on this, and have zero tolerance policies like Jackson's does. If somebody sells to somebody who's underage, they're fired. I mean, there's no questions asked.
Right.
There is, I think there's a condition in there about doing the LEAD or RBS training, which is responsible beverage service training. That covers in details, you know, hey, how to do a proper identification check so that we're not selling to minors. And the other big part of it is to make sure that we're not selling to people that are obviously already intoxicated. You can't sell to somebody who's staggering in there. It's breaking the law. There are laws to do that. So we educate our employees on there. Other thing that people don't realize is if there's like a sting operation and one of our checkers makes a very bad decision and sells to them, they're terminated. Second of all, they're going to get a fine from ABC. It's the corporation's going to get a fine and a mark on our license, but that individual is going to get fined as well too. And if you're a clerk and all of a sudden you're facing a $1,500 fine and you just lost your job, it's a very good deterrent to make sure that people are doing it. Plus, too, we use card scanners on our cash register.
I don't want to cut you off, but I want to keep it relevant to the questions that
Sorry.
are being asked from up here. So, Don, did you have some questions?
Yes. Under if you were to be granted a type 21 for this location, and at some point you decided you wanted to expand your distilled spirits, could you do that under this CUP and type 21 license?
Well, we could, yeah. I don't think that there's any restriction of doing that, but I will be more than happy to offer to you folks that I've agreed to conditions before that say that, hey, we can't dedicate more than 5% of our overall space to the display of alcoholic beverages, and that way you guys have got some control that, hey, I'm not going to be up here and tell you, or Jackson's is going to sell it and somebody else comes out and says, oh, gee, I'm just going to make this wall-to-wall liquor. We have no issues with a condition, that says, hey, you can't display more than, say, I feel like 5%, because that's what a lot of other municipalities do. You can't have more than a 5% display. And we're amenable to a condition like that.
Okay, thank you.
How many of your 30 locations in California actually have type 21 licenses?
I've done them all. I don't have a count. I would say that there's probably at least half at this point in time. And part of my job is to help get them permitted. I've got two or three other applications going on, and we have last year we recently did about 5 or 6, and the year before we did about 5 or 6. I'm sorry I don't have the exact number, but it's
Roughly
at least
50%?
half. Yeah.
And then what would be more advantageous to you? Keeping singles, as you mentioned in your 12-minute speech, or the liquor cabinet behind the counter?
Singles.
Is that something that you would be interested in making a trade for? In other words, if you kept singles but lost the ability to sell bottled liquor, straight liquor, 40%, 40 proof, that kind of stuff behind the cabinet, is that a trade that you would make?
I think so. I would have to, double check, but our like I said, the driver are these
grab and go.
The grab and goes. There's a few products that are above 15%. I would ask that we place the threshold up to say 20%, and I don't need to sell liquor. I don't need to sell liquor bottles. It's nice to be able to have the ability to do it because once in a while somebody will buy it. But for the most part, people that are looking for that beverage, they're going to Total Wine & More, Bevmo. They're going to the supermarket. We don't see a lot of that business.
Any other questions for the applicant?
No.
Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you.
We may call you back up, so hang around. Any other public speakers?
We have Terry Raines.
Hello again. I verified the ABC standard for the census tract is 4 off-site licenses and that there are currently 6 active licenses in this tract. But I'm wondering how the ABC came up with 4 off-sale licenses are allowed if 1 is allowed for every 1,665 residents and the census tract population is 8,240. Divide 8,240 by 1,665 and the result is 4.95, which clearly rounds up to 5. So either they choose to truncate and round down any result that's lower than the next whole number or their math is wrong. Perhaps staff can answer this. I'm disappointed in the report from the police department. It used to be the PD would provide an itemized summary of all calls to service to the subject property for at least a 1-year period. The WPD attachment is just a letter that closes with, over the past year, there have been minimal calls for service related to Shell gas station, none apparently related to alcohol. Either call for service is related to alcohol or it's not. When and why did the PD stop providing detailed crime stats and calls for service detail for PCN applications? Staff should clean up the resolution format before it's signed. There are several indentation errors. The PD condition should be a continuation of the other conditions, starting with number 7, not number 1, and the format should be the same as for item 3. More importantly, the staff report presentation of similar CUPs or project applications should be consistent across the organization, regardless of who originates the report. There are stark presentation errors and inconsistent formatting between this item and item 3.8.3, which are grossly similar cases. My own independent research yielded no justifiable reason for denying this CUP application. Planning commissioners, you should reach the same conclusion based on the information provided to you. And for the city attorney's benefit, I am going to read Government Code 65905A. Except as otherwise provided in this article, and it isn't, a public hearing shall be held on an application for a variance from the requirements of a zoning ordinance, comma, an application for a conditional use permit or equivalent development permit, comma, a proposed revocation or modification of a variance or use permit or equivalent development permit or an appeal from the actions taken on any of these applications. My question is, because Westminster is a general law city and we're not a charter city, so even if our code, which we find out, planning is finding out how inconsistent our municipal code is with state law. We're in the process of trying to get all that cleaned up, but I just want the city attorney, and they can do it privately to me via email, to explain to me or cite the actual state code that allows it not to be published in a newspaper for CUP applications, because this code states it's mandated. Thank you.
Next, we have Catherine Litwin speaking in opposition.
Good evening. I'm a resident who lives near that intersection, and I've frequented that gas station as well as purchased items from that gas station. As of a few months ago, they do not have vaping products. They do sell cigarettes. And I just want to let you know that about a year or two ago, I actually bought a 6-pack of miniature fireballs. It was in a cooler that any little kid can go and grab. I'm short, I could grab it. My main concern is, although I enjoy alcoholic beverages, we have a big homeless problem. We have a homeless encampment just one street over. In fact, during the fire season, when Palisades was happening, we had a fire, a dumpster fire where the homeless encampment is. And the winds were blowing and we were really scared that our houses were gonna burn down. So I feel so strongly against issuing an alcohol license, especially because there's a car wash and a gas station. So if someone who's got a handicap honks the horn, asks for gas, is there a second person who's going to do the sales inside of the store? Because for years, I've never seen more than one person in there. So for the sake of children, for the sake of the community, I highly recommend not having more alcohol available. Thank you.
I have a question. You mentioned there's a homeless encampment.
Yes.
Can you give us an address or a location that staff could follow up?
It is the street parallel to Magnolia to the east.
East of Magnolia and
Yeah,
south?
parallel to it. I don't remember.
Is it south of Bolsa?
South of Bolsa.
East of Magnolia?
So
south?
it's, yeah,
Okay.
right there, one street over.
And they're there continually?
Yes.
Okay, thank
We've
you.
alerted the police department, we've alerted the fire department, and, I mean, the 7-Eleven there sells alcohol, and I don't feel comfortable going in there past 9 o'clock because of the clientele. And I just don't want to see that happening to our community.
Okay, thank you.
Another question for you. You live there, right?
I do.
Do you see a lot of hangouts around at night?
I'm sorry?
Do you see a lot of hangouts around
And
7-Eleven and
and-
the Shell, both? Do you see hangout at nighttime?
I see, I even hear fireworks going off in that parking lot and kids doing donuts in the parking lot.
But do you see people outside drinking or hanging out next to the 7-Eleven?
You know, I'm in and out, either pumping gas or, going in to
Okay.
get some snacks, so
Okay.
I couldn't tell you that.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any other public speakers?
No, we do not.
Okay. Any other questions for the applicant or any of the public speakers? You want to bring anybody back up? Otherwise, I'm going to close the public hearing. Okay. At this time, I'll go ahead and close the public hearing on item 8.2. Commissioners, any questions, comments, feedback for staff, whatever you have? Now is the time. Don, you got something?
Well, yeah, just a question for Ken regarding the applicant's comments on the single sales. So what was staff's justification for going with not allowing the single sales?
Well, first of all, the conditions do allow for single sales. They just put a minimum size. All these conditions are from PD. This one we actually worked out with PD because they didn't have a condition that covered this. So the actual condition reads that no beer, malt beverages, or pre-mixed distilled spirits with an ABV less than 15% may be sold in single containers of less than 22 ounces or in sizes of 1 quart or larger. So it does allow for singles. It just doesn't allow for these smaller cans. It only allows for 22 and larger. And honestly, between that quart size and 22, it's pretty much 22s. You'll get some odd sizes, but that 22 is a standard.
Okay, thank you.
And with the ABV less than 15%.
But if you make it,
So if that's a 5% beer and it's a 20-ounce can, it cannot be sold.
Correct. Anything less than 15%, which would be, 1% to 15, 22 or larger, and that's what the applicant is asking you to change.
Right. And there's nothing, there's nothing in their current conditional use permit under their type 20 license that prohibits them from selling any singles of any size.
Correct.
but I have a question here. If it's smaller, it means there's less alcohol in there. If it's bigger, it's more toxic, isn't it?
Not necessarily, because it's a percentage of size versus alcohol content. So if I have I can get a 22 that's at 5%.
Okay, and
But you could also get a 12-ounce can of some of these pre-mixed, which are at 20%. So that would have double the amount of liquor.
Got it.
Basically, as the 22 at 5.
okay.
But in order to sell the 22%, you'd have to have the license, 21 license?
It's not percentage that changes the license. It is the base ingredient for the spirits.
Okay.
Like there's a beer at Ballast Point that is 28%. That they could sell that now, but they can't sell anything that has, even if it's 5%, that has a distilled spirit as the base liquor that forms the drink.
Got it.
Okay.
Right, but the way that number 9 is written, no beer, malt beverage or pre-mixed distilled spirit with an ABV less than 15% may be sold in single containers. of 22 ounces or larger, of less than 22 ounces or in sizes of 1 quart or larger. So if it's 20%, I can sell it in a 12-ounce can.
No, because there's a different condition, condition 8, that says anything with an ABV greater than 15% has to be locked in that cabinet, clearly visible, so that wouldn't be allowed to be
Locked in a
kept in the
cabinet still means I can sell a single.
If it's
Wines and number 11, wine and distilled spirits with an ABV above 15% shall not be sold in bottles or containers smaller than 750.
I like how we're switching between metric and, we got to measure in grams too here. I think it's just worded very, very poorly.
And staff is open to the commission changing it. As these conditions were from PD, I have had discussions with the applicant about these conditions. My guidance to him was staff was not going to change them because they're from PD, but commission has every right to change those as they see fit.
Well, and it sounds like to me, from hearing the applicant, the number one concern is that they have the ability to sell a 20-ounce Modelo.
Yeah.
I mean, that sounds pretty average. Construction worker on the way home wants to put a little gas in his car, maybe grab a single beer for himself and take that home, and that seems to be kind of their bread and butter. But it's definitely limiting their ready-to-go abilities. Grab a six-pack of whatever ranch water, whatever the new flavor of the beer alternative, if you will, and it limits their ability to do that because they don't have the correct license. I don't think they're necessarily, it doesn't sound like from the applicant that they're in the business of selling hard liquor. It sounds like that's an inconvenience to even have the cabinet behind the counter to some extent, and they'd much rather have the ability to sell a single standard beer to a client that wants it versus being able to carry, let's say, a 1-liter bottle of vodka or hard distilled alcohol. I think that's something that we as a commission should consider when we look at this draft and what we actually want to recommend for them. I'd like to give them the ability to sell a product very, very similar to what they're currently selling with very little impact, but I also don't want to open up the possibility of nearby fully licensed type 21 stores like ABC Market or whoever is in the nearby neighborhood. We're not going to give them gas permits to sell gasoline, so why are we giving a gasoline station a permit to sell what the guy down the street does? There's kind of some conflict there, at least in my mind. But I think we might be able to find a win-win solution here if we're open to looking at some recommendations.
What I understood from him, what he said, he wants it all.
Well, I asked him that specific question if he wanted a trade-off. What would he rather keep? He would rather keep singles than the ability to sell liquor behind the counter. So I think there's some possibilities there that we might be able to look at. Do you want to ask him that question? I mean, we already closed the public hearing, but I might be able to get a nod of the head in the crowd without reopening the public hearing, something like that.
But if other people have it next to him, I don't see why can't he have it? That's my opinion.
Yeah. Well, something too, getting back to the basics, is that alcoholic beverage control requires in this case that the local jurisdiction, in this case the city of Westminster, make a determination of public convenience or necessity. Mm-hmm. So that's something I don't think we've really looked at. I think the applicant has talked, about some convenience, but one of the slides that Ken showed has just to the west of this gas station, I think it's Gallup, is it Gallup Liquor? Could you show that, Ken, if you could bring that up?
Yeah, I've got the slide back up. There we go. So on that southwest corner, the Shell Jackson Food Stores location is directly on the corner as a gas station.
Okay.
Behind it in the shopping center
south.
are 2 Type 21 licenses, one for Gallup Liquor, which is a full liquor store, and one for the ABC Market, which functions like a normal supermarket where they have an alcohol section.
Correct.
There's also a Type 20 directly across the street to the north. And to the northeast is a 7-Eleven, which currently has a 20, and that will be the next item you hear for a conversion to a Type 21.
Okay.
Yeah. So I'm in my mind, I would have a hard time saying that this 21 license should be approved because there's a public convenience or necessity. The area seems to be well served as it is.
Okay. with me, the way I see it, is if everyone else has it, they should have it, and the public will choose which store to go to. That's my opinion. For business, simple as that. I choose where I want to go. So why would I block him and let somebody else have it? I think he should have it.
I'm only concerned about the public restroom. And if you can modify it to keep your customer by using them a coin to open the door, then it will be good, to my opinion.
I'm going to make a motion, move approval.
Before the commission makes a motion, we would like them to consider the alternatives on the table before a motion is
With the
made, so we
conditions,
can.
whatever
we
you
can
guys want to put
clear it.
on conditions, let's discuss it.
Right, that's what we're
But I'm
doing.
up for approval.
Okay, are you making a motion to approve, or are you just voicing your opinion, you're open to approval?
Okay, I'm open to approval.
Great. So there's still no motions on the floor at this time. Any other comments, any changes you want to see? Anything else to discuss?
No, at this time, actually, Alan has a motion for approval. I'd like to make a substitute motion, which would be for denial of the CUP and of the, and not making a public convenience or necessity determination. So it'd be the opposite of what's recommended.
Okay, so we have a motion for approval and a substitute motion for
Denial.
denial of the resolution. Are there any seconds for the substitute motion?
I would like to add in conditional use permit, an item that I request.
Okay, so Tony, you want to add in having a public restroom?
Yes, open
Open
to
for the
the public,
public.
at least to the customer who use it. That means they paid for their service.
So are
when
you
they
basing
paid.
your second motion based
You-
on the bathroom being approved?
I think he
Yes.
wants to deny it and make them have a bathroom.
You want to deny it or not deny it?
Deny and amend.
Yeah, okay. All right, so let's clean this up real quick.
Well, I think if it's denied, I don't think you can add a condition.
Understand, I understand. So what I'd like to do in your case, can I hold your substitute motion for just a moment?
Yes, sir.
Perfect. Alan, as far as conditions of approval, are there any amendments that you would want to make, or you want to approve as is?
No, I mean, I'm open for amendment, that's for sure.
Okay,
But I think this should be approved. We have to be fair for them, same as the rest of the people that have it already.
would you like to make any changes or suggestions or recommendations for approval
Okay.
and make a motion?
Do you have any ideas?
I have lots of ideas.
Okay, what's your ideas on the approval?
Well, that's not, I mean, at this point, if you want to make a motion to approve,
Okay,
I want to allow you the opportunity
Okay.
to do that. If you have any conditions to approval, I want you to make the opportunity to make those known. It's not necessarily my job to give you ideas of what to put in
Okay,
your
I could-
motion.
I can make a motion when they sell alcohol, hard liquor, to tell the customer that buying, he's not allowed to open it on the premises, not to hang out outside with it, holding it in his hands. He has to just leave right away the facility.
That's by definition an off-site sale, which is already built into the resolution. So the resolution we have, would you like to approve it as is? Or are there any amendments you would like to make in order to approve it?
Okay, I will go with the recommendation with the PD, the way they want to sell it, and approve it the way it is.
Okay. So we have a motion on the floor by Commissioner Hamadi for approval of the resolution on item 8.2 as recommended by staff. Do I have a second?
Well, we have a substitute motion.
We do. And I ask for your permission to just hold on to it for
Okay.
one tight second.
Okay.
Okay, so you want to approve it, no changes.
No changes.
Okay, great. And then we have a second, we have a substitute motion by Commissioner Anderson for denial of the project and to just close item 8.2 out. And I would like to second that motion at this time. So we have a substitute motion on the floor made by Commissioner Anderson for denial of this conditional use permit, item 8.2, and seconded by me.
We have a substitute motion by Vice Chair Anderson, seconded by Chair Wolbert, to deny the approval of case number 2024-0220, a conditional use permit to upgrade an existing off-sale beer and wine license, ABC license type 20, to an off-sale general license, ABC license type 21, including a public convenience or necessity determination for an existing convenience store with gas service station at 8990 Bolsa Avenue within the mixed-use 4-0 zone. I will call roll. Commissioner Bowie?
Yes.
Commissioner Hamadi?
No.
Vice Chair Anderson?
Yes.
Chair Wolbert?
Yes.
Three yeses, 1 no, motion carries.
What grounds are you denying this project?
Can you read the statement?
Commission's action on this item shall The commission's action on this item shall become effective 15 days after the decision date identified in a notice of decision. The applicant and/or any other interested party may file an appeal of the commission's action to the city council. The appeal must be in writing and filed with the city clerk within the previously mentioned 15-day period.
Before we move on to 8.3, Don, would you like to give a reason why you denied? There's somebody in the audience that would like to understand under what grounds are you denying the conditional use permit? Or why you recommended that?
Well, it hasn't, there's already liquor available, or these beverages available, and there's no necessity to have these beverages available at this location. They're available, readily available elsewhere.
So if we can make sure that we record for the record, the reason stated by Commissioner Anderson for denial of the conditional use permit is the oversaturation clause. There's already too many licensed 21s in the area, and that's why his reason for denial of the project, and I would concur with that as well, to be on record. And I think that the conditional use permit itself was just a mess. There was a lot of things that needed to be cleaned up on it, and I think there's too many regulations put on by the police, and I would encourage the applicant to apply again and make sure that we get this thing right before it comes before the commission. That being said, let's move on to item 8.3.
Thank you.
Item 8.3, pardon me 1 second, and get these papers in the right order. There we are. We're on to case number 2024-0176, a conditional use permit at 9001 Bolsa Avenue, and I will turn it over to staff.
Good evening, Chair, Vice Chair, and Commissioners. Before I begin my presentation, I'd like to make a couple of note that in the staff report, I found some little bit of errors. There were some director's comment that was not removed. However, the director's comments were addressed in the whole section for the PC, and so the comments that were left out on the staff report should not really affect the analysis of the project. So tonight's presentation involves planning case number 2024-0176, a request for a conditional use permit on property located at 9001 Bolsa Avenue. The project site is located on the northeast corner of Bolsa and Magnolia Avenue, and the project site is zoned mixed use 40. And the surrounding uses are also surrounded by mixed use 40 zoning district with housing overlay zones to the north, east, and south. To the west of the project site is a C1 local business zoning district and multiple residential zone with housing overlay zones. The applicant is seeking an approval of a conditional use permit to upgrade the existing off-sale beer and wine alcohol license to include distilled spirit, similar to the presentation you just heard, which is catty corner from my current location. The existing alcohol license type is 20, and it will be changed to 21 if it's approved. The subject site is accessible through existing driveways located along Magnolia and Bolsa. with parking spaces provided in front of the store. The proposed project does not involve any building addition or exterior modification. The existing floor plan is divided into 2 usable areas. Customer areas are shown in blue, and the staff employee areas are shown in orange shades. Currently, beer and wine are sold off the shelf and in walk-in coolers. The distilled spirits are proposed to be stored in the new locked liquor cabinets located behind the cashier. The proposed liquor cabinet is about 2 feet by 4. It's about 8 square feet in size. There are no other changes to the floor plan. The area map shows the overall view of the nearest off-sale alcohol licenses, which is different than census tract map, which you will see in a little bit. The nearest location with off-sale distilled spirit is about 655 feet from the project site, which is located in ABC supermarket, whereas the furthest location is over 1,100 feet in distance inside a Dong supermarket. These supermarkets are inconvenient since the parking in Little Saigon district can be challenging. Moreover, navigating through a market for distilled spirit is burdensome, whereas the 7-Eleven can add distilled spirits, like Ken has discussed earlier regarding ready-to-drink beverages. Staff assessment. The proposed use is conditionally allowed per mixed-use 40 zoning district with approval of a conditional use permit. Analysis of the alcoholic beverage license is provided by the Westminster Police Department and by the Alcoholic Beverage Control. And it includes a number of off-site alcohol licenses by the census tract and crime data by the police reporting district. Alcohol Beverage Control, which is known as ABC, identified that the subject's site is located in census tract number 889.05 and is allotted 3 off-site licenses before becoming oversaturated with liquor license. There are currently 3 off-sale alcohol licenses, which include the subject's convenience store. So on the right-hand side, you could see the census tract, how ABC regulates. On the Police District 27 is individual mile block that the city created to identify policing districts. So the subject site is located on Police District 27. The Westminster Police Department, as I indicated, identified the Police District 27. Although the alcohol license saturation is not excessive, the crime rate within the Police District 27 is higher than average per police district, which means that in comparison of other districts, such as the 27 and 28, although we don't know the actual crime rate, the average is lower than what's currently happening in District 27. However, the police department added that most of the service calls made in that district are not related to the subject business. They're more related to vehicle stops in the area that is occurring on that parcel. Therefore, the police department does not object to the proposed project. According to the California Government Code Section 23958.4 of the Business and Professional Code, when an alcohol license sells alcohol beverage at a premise where there's a high crime rate, the city must determine whether a public convenience or necessity would benefit the public by issuing the license. As previously discussed, the subject site has a high crime rate, therefore the city must make the PCN determination. The Westminster Police Department indicated that over the past 12 months, there has not been excessive number of calls. Only 3 minor incident reports were made. And therefore, staff finds that the proposed project to include distilled spirit in conjunction with the off-sale beer and wine would serve the public convenience by offering one-stop shopping experience. In conclusion, staff recommends that the Planning Commission approves planning case number 2024-0176 and make convenience determination for alcohol license subject to recommended conditions of approval and the draft resolution. This concludes my presentation for the case 2024-0176. I can answer any questions that you might have. Additionally, my applicant is here and attending the meeting, and they could also answer any specific business operation questions.
Thank you so much. Any questions for staff?
No.
No.
Zero.
Okay, great. We can go ahead and open up a public hearing, have the applicant come up.
Good evening. Bruce Evans for 7-Eleven. Very strange case. I've been doing this for 20-plus years. I've never had an identical case immediately before my presentation. I was lucky to go number 2. Steve and I happen to know each other as well. Thought he did a great job. So I will start by thanking Ms. Kim. She's been great to work with throughout this process and very professional and accessible, and we appreciate that. Months, maybe a year before my office filed this application, we reached out to the PD. We eventually led to a gentleman named Bruce Ram. He works he's a former police officer, and he works as a consultant for the police. And I don't know how the sausage is made behind the scenes with the police, but those conditions were largely worked out by my office and me talking to Bruce. It's confusing because my name is also Bruce, but me talking to Mr. Ram. The singles condition, which is written a little bit awkward, was worked out by me. And the goal there was that generally the police, they don't want the stores selling the real small size singles, and they don't want them selling the cheap stuff in the larger containers, people refer to as the 40s, and that's the cheap malt liquor. So we tried to carve out, your basic staple American singles, your Budweiser, your Coors, in that middle range between 22 ounces and a quart. So for background, that's how that came up, to address the law enforcement concerns, but allow the business to sell something that's generally viewed as a responsible consumer. I have Geeta Rijal. She's here behind me. She's a little bit shy. I would like her to have an opportunity to say hello tonight and talk to you a little bit about her store. She has a very close relationship with the police in Westminster. She's at this store 7 days a week. This is her livelihood. She has a lot, invested in this store to make it the best store that it can be, and 7-Eleven wants to help out their best franchisees, and that's what this is about. This is not an effort to push a bunch of alcohol in the store. We're not adding any coolers from what's already there. We're just going to be placing something about the size of this podium behind the counter, locked up with distilled spirits. That's it. Not going to change the character of the store. To address your question, sir, about can it morph into a liquor store, 7-Eleven would never do that because they have all these other products they want to sell within a confined space. And we have a floor plan which actually shows where the alcohol is. That's part of the approval. And we do have a bathroom, Commissioner Bowie. We have a public bathroom. And
Right.
Who uses that bathroom a lot is the Westminster Police Department.
Good for them.
They know Geeta. They can go in there at 2 o'clock in the morning. They can have a water. They can have a coffee. They can take a break, and they can use the bathroom. It's a good store. It's a family-run store. Westminster PD knows that, and they're in there a lot, not for problems, but because it's a resource for them. And the spirits, the idea is, of course, to serve the convenience needs of the customer. I want to zero in, if I can, on the PCN, the public convenience. I know that was your chief concern. sir, and I thought the gentleman to my left did one of the best jobs of describing the PCN statute. It's not a well-written statute, so it gets misconstrued. As he said, it does not mean there's too much alcohol. You can end up with technically the statute, it doesn't say over-concentration, it says undue concentration. The intent here, back in the 80s, was if cities were not like Westminster and they didn't have a CUP ordinance, then an applicant could apply to the ABC for a license, and if a city didn't have a CUP requirement, the state might give them that license without the city, the local jurisdiction, being able to weigh in. So what the state tried to do in that legislation, they said, okay, we're going to have a couple baselines, and that way the cities always have a chance to weigh in on the licensing process if certain things are triggers. And one was the concentration of licenses, which is based on population. If you put the alcohol in commercial zones where people tend not to live, and you focus those retail businesses, you will end up quite often with undue concentration because of good zoning, not in spite of it. And to this gentleman's point, that's why it is very common that many jurisdictions in many commercial zones are unduly concentrated under their statutes. So that was one. City automatically gets to make the PCN finding, or if the crime is 20% greater than the average, and they've addressed that with the police department. So, you know, as we showed on the map that we submitted, this is a full-service convenience store. If you go in that store, you'll see milk, you'll see cheese, you'll see fresh food delivered daily, salads, fruits, sandwiches, and the spirits fit into that as a staple grocery item. There are no full-service convenience stores offering the products that 7-Eleven has, and that's why we think we meet the public convenience. But you have another option. If you're not comfortable making the public convenience finding, the ABC can do that. The city can decline and simply defer to weigh in one way or the other, and the ABC will make the determination 90 days later. So we think in this case, factually, we meet the standards for public convenience because of the uniqueness of this store. But if you don't want to weigh into that, let the ABC do it. So I'm done. I'm happy to answer any questions. I don't want to relitigate the whole case that you just heard with a different applicant because the issues are primarily similar, but we do think our store is unique. Again, it's a full-service convenience store. We don't have gas. We have bathrooms. We have lots of food. And we're not trying to push a lot of alcohol, just meet the convenience needs of its customers. So, Rita, are there any questions for me?
I know her store very well. Back in the days when I ran for office, with my team, we used to go at 2 in the morning and get Slurpee. Do you still have Slurpee?
Yeah.
Okay. I take it that many people ask you for alcohol, hard liquor. That's why you decide to get the license, right?
Yeah, but you know, the Westminster, most of them are Asian customer.
Yeah.
And they come in, oh, Gita, you don't have the hard liquor because I have the family get together. I need a hard liquor. At that time, I really hard to say, oh, go the ABC liquor, you go have to over there.
I got the idea already. And then by requesting 2x4, that's a very small cabinet. It means your customers can be very minor, not that many.
Yeah, because the 7-Eleven.
So only the people that you know, they ask you before, they're going to come back, and when they see you have it, they're going to come back and see it again, buy it again from you. It wouldn't be like a big, full, open market for liquor. 2x4 cabinet is a very small cabinet.
Yeah, because I cannot just like, I have to follow the 7-Eleven rule.
Yeah.
7-Eleven just make the one cabinet.
Okay.
And I have to post my customer what type they like it. And one cabinet and how many I can put over there. And I want to put the number one selling item, just put over there. I don't want to put on the other places, just behind the counter. And I have to focus on all the 7-Eleven stuff, you know, the 7-Eleven brand, and I have to follow all the other beer too. And that means I just follow I just want to, my customer come and convenience for this in the nighttime. I open 24 hours and before 2 o'clock. And after 6 a.m., I can sell the alcohol to my customer. But I cannot fill all the food stuff, but, you know, I can just fill up, I can follow the 7-Eleven rule and I can just
So you will sell alcohol until 2 a.m. only. Cutoff time is 2 a.m. or 24 hour?
Not after 2 a.m. to 6 a.m. I cannot sell the alcohol.
Okay.
Yeah.
Good enough. Thank you.
And Commissioner Mahadi, that's a state restriction, not a local or condition.
Yeah, I know. I know.
So,
I know it's 2 a.m. the cutoff time. I know.
Yeah, I know that my customer. I work almost I'm the franchisee, but I work, almost 10 hours a day. I'll the store every day, 7 days a week.
Okay,
Yeah.
got it.
We have a couple minutes left. Any other questions for the applicant while they're up?
No.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Next up, we have Terry Raines.
Hello, tonight's meeting could be described as dueling booze applications for the intersection of Magnolia and Bolsa. I verified that the ABC standard for this census tract is indeed 3 off-sale licenses, and that there are currently 3 active licenses in this tract. But unlike 8.2, ABC's math checks out on this one. Like item 8.2, I am disappointed in the report from our police department, a letter that closes with, over the past year, there have been several calls for service to this location, although many of the calls for service appear to be for vehicle or traffic stops in the area and not directly related to 7-Eleven. 7-Eleven has been the victim of 3 reported thefts, 2 of which were beer runs. Officers have also responded to transient-related calls, which is not unusual for the area. Staff's request on page 2 of the staff report is inappropriate, coming from staff. Quote, please introduce the concept of the determination of convenience or necessity before you go through the crime analysis. Otherwise, the reader doesn't understand why it's presented, unquote. It's fine for the applicant to request such consideration, but not from city staff, whose job it is to present the facts in an unbiased, neutral manner. Also on page 2, it references Jackson 216 as also having applied for a CUP to upgrade its ABC license to type 21, but why wasn't this same notation in this application included in the staff report for 8.2? Back to the consistency issue. For item 8.2, the staff report stated that WPD does not oppose the alcohol license upgrade at the subject premises with the recommended conditions of approval. There's no similar statement for this application, probably because the crime rate is much higher in the census tract and that there have been alcohol-related calls for service to this location over the past year. The applicant's ABC application wrongly reports only 127 offenses in PD reporting District 27, while the PD reports a total of 202 offenses, 67% over the average. Other 7-Eleven locations in the city are crime magnets, transients, that's why the PD is there so much, transients, loitering, alcohol and drug use on site, theft, and even violent crime. Bruce Ram of Security Design Concepts on behalf of the PD apparently unilaterally compromised on the single container condition to placate this applicant. But PD should be here to provide a more detailed report. Staff should also clean up this resolution before it's signed. It's got same of the formatting issues. And I'm just going to say that you're considering an exact, almost identical application to the one that you just denied. And I oppose that denial vehemently. And if you approve this one, you're screwed because you denied him. If you deny this one, you've got 2 of them on your back that I do not believe that they should have been denied at all. And when you make a denial, you're supposed to make a finding, city attorney, as to why you're denying it. And what you stated with the saturation, it's not going to add any off-sale license. Neither one of these are going to add an off-sale license to the saturation because they're lumped together. 21 and 22 are all the same with ABC as far as total.
Next up, we have Catherine Litwin speaking in opposition.
Hello again. I just want to add to my previous speech. The furthest location selling alcohol is Adong Supermarket, and I can walk there and back. It's not that far at all. Where the homeless encampment is on West State, and there's street parking there, and you can easily walk to Adong from there, even quicker, within 5 minutes. So street parking, parking issue in that area is not the issue. The issue is that it is 24 hours. The store is 24 hours. We already have, the neighbors all complain that we have street racers and people setting off fireworks, not around Tet, not around New Year's, not around 4th of July. It's almost year round. And having alcohol sales increase, I think would attract that kind of riffraff, honestly. So again, I'm against this. Thank you.
Thank you.
We don't have any more speakers.
All right, any questions for the applicant or any of the public speakers that you'd like to have them come back up, or can we close the public hearing?
Close it.
All right. That being said, I will go ahead and close the public hearing. Commissioners, now's the time you can voice your opinion, talk, share some information about item 8.3.
Okay. If you don't mind, can I start?
Yeah, absolutely, go ahead.
Okay. If you walk 10 feet, you can walk 200 feet. If you want alcohol, you're going to go look for it and find it. Doesn't matter what the store is, it close or far, it's business. We do know that 7-Eleven always have deals, buy two, get one free, or like two for this one price. Other stores not going to do that to you. So people might go to the 7-Eleven for the price. I'm going to shop for the cheapest price, even though I don't drink alcohol, but I know the business how it is. In my opinion, just because we denied, you guys denied the first one, I don't think you should pay the price to get denied either. My opinion, this should be passed. Be a record or not, I tried to approve the first one, I'm going to try to approve the second one also. It's business, and we are here about business to help business owners to succeed, not to block everything, and that's not what we're here for. That's my opinion.
Tony, any comments? Don?
Yeah, I think we're back to the same issue as I see it, and it's the issue. It's not it's the public convenience or necessity is what we're here to determine. Is this necessary for the public's convenience, or is it necessary? Now, if a establishment wanted to apply for a conditional use permit in another location, not Westminster, but in a more remote location, and maybe it was the only facility around, then you would want to look, I think, is it convenient for the public? Well, it might be, depending on that location. And necessity as well. If there was very few or only one, I think you'd look at it. But there are so many in this area, and as pointed out, within easy walking distance, I don't see how that we can make a determination that there is a public convenience or necessity to approve this.
I'm going to make another comment. If one person has an auto parts store, another store next to it, another store next to it, that doesn't mean I can deny one person to open another one. It's all about competition here, and they're all in business. I choose where I want to go. I cannot just give it to one person and say, okay, you could do this, you could sell this, and then to the other person say, I'm sorry, you cannot because somebody else already have it. That's not fair.
Well, it's kind of fair. It depends upon what the subject matter of being for sale is. And so we have regulations on how much alcohol can be sold in certain radiuses. And that's why we have laws in place in the state of California to kind of determine what is oversaturation and what isn't, and what is necessity out of public convenience. Are there enough residents to merit 5 stores in one location of one type, or do we need to set a cap on that? What's the crime rate in that area? If cops are dealing with too much violent crime, street racing, illegal fireworks, all kinds of other things, does alcohol fuel the problems for the police department? So by adding more alcohol into a certain census tract, you could potentially be burdening the police department and fire departments with more headaches. So there are some regulations that, especially around the sale, we're not selling chewing gum. Can everybody sell chewing gum? Probably, but this is alcohol. This is something different.
Okay, having said that, that doesn't mean if you block someone from selling alcohol, it's going to stop the alcohol sales. People are still going to go to the store and buy it regardless. You accept it or not, they're still going to go to the store and buy it. They're going to go find it. They're going to walk. They're going to take Uber to it. You're not going to stop them if they want alcohol. So give the opportunity to other people to buy and sell alcohol too.
True, but supermarkets aren't typically open till 2 a.m. or 24 hours a day.
I'm going to make a motion to move approval. You guys could deny it.
There's a motion on the floor by Commissioner Hamadi for approval. Are there any seconds?
I second it.
We have a motion by Commissioner Hamade, seconded by Commissioner Bowie, to approve case number 2024-0176, a conditional use permit to upgrade an existing off-sale beer and wine license ABC License Type 20 to an off-sale general license, ABC License Type 21, including a public convenience or necessity determination for an existing convenience store at 9001 Bolsa Avenue within the mixed-use 40 zone through the adoption of Resolution 25-004, subject to the attached conditions of approval. I will call roll. Commissioner Bowie?
No.
You seconded it already.
Yeah. Well,
He voted no.
I vote for no.
Okay.
So you don't want it to be approved?
Commissioner Hamari?
Yes.
Vice Chair Anderson?
No.
Chair Walbert?
I'm going to vote no.
I'm sorry, that was no?
No.
Okay, thank you. 3-1. Motion denied.
All right, so we denied the resolution on 8.3. I think we can close that out. We will move on to item number 8.4.
Real quickly, Chairman, I'll read the quick statement for that one. The commission's action on this item shall become effective 15 days after the decision date identified in the notice of decision. The applicant or any other interested party may file an appeal of the commission's action to the city council. The appeal must be in writing and filed with the city clerk within the previously mentioned 15-day period.
All right, on to item 8.4, which is case number 2025-0039, a request to amend section 17.62 of the general plan zoning code amendment. I will go ahead and turn it over to staff.
All right, sorry, Commission, I'm kind of dual tasking at that moment.
Is everyone doing okay up here? Do we need a 5-minute recess before we move on to the next item and open it up to the staff?
Our lawyer is nodding yes.
Okay, since the lawyer is nodding yes, let's go ahead and take a 5-minute recess.
Okay.
And then we'll come back to item 8.4.
Okay. You're welcome. I have to use the bathroom too myself.
Hey, restroom.
But I was going to hold it.
Open.
Thank you all for the needed break. If you wouldn't mind, clerk, call roll just to make sure we're all here.
Commissioner Bowie?
Yes.
Commissioner Hamade?
Here.
Vice Chair Anderson?
Here.
Chair Wilbert?
And I'm here as well. Thank you much. We will go ahead and continue with item 8.4, case number 2025-0039. Staff, take it away. Thanks, Ken.
Thank you, Chair and Commissioners. I'll pick back up where Sandy left off here. So tonight we're bringing case number 2025-0039. That is a request to amend section 17.50, applications, processing, and fees of the Westminster Municipal Code. Oh. Actually, I apologize. I've got these backwards in my presentation. Let's go with the other one first. When you do 4 of these in a night, everything starts to blend.
Totally understand.
Right. All right, so let's go in order. In case 2025-0039, I request to amend section 17.620, general plan, zoning map, and zoning code amendments of the Westminster Municipal Code. Brief background, so this zoning code amendment was initiated by the Planning Commission on 2/5/25. That was during a meeting where we initiated 7 code text amendments. These are the first 2 to come back. You will probably get a steady diet of these over the next 2-3 months. So the chapter we're looking at regulates the procedure for initiating general plan, zoning code, and zoning amendments, or zoning map amendments. It currently allows for the Planning Commission or City Council to initiate amendments on behalf of the city. To do that, staff presents, or we petition and present a staff report and meeting presentation to either the Planning Commission or City Council. They then go for a resolution of intention if they wish to initiate the amendment. For staff, that entails reports, meetings, all time that we feel could be better spent on actually working on the amendments. So staff is therefore proposing to allow the Community Development Director to initiate zoning code amendments. This is a common practice in a lot of cities. I know where I came from, we allowed this. I quickly pulled cities around us, and the first 4 I pulled, Garden Grove, Buena Park, Anaheim, Long Beach, all allow for staff initiation in some form. We're actually being more restrictive than some of the cities by saying it has to be the director. Some cities don't even clarify which staff it has to be. So it basically allows any staff to initiate an amendment. What this does for staff, it allows us to respond quickly, expeditiously to changing laws or city needs. An example is one we already initiated with you, which is we are in the process of amending the ADU code. We're not doing it because we want to, we're doing it because state statutes have changed and we have to meet those new statutes. But in order to start that process, we couldn't just start on it. We had to first go through the Planning Commission to initiate a zone text amendment. The change we're looking at wouldn't usurp the authority of either the Planning Commission or City Council. This isn't changing the meetings we have to go to, the public hearings we have to go to. All this is doing is allowing us to skip that initial resolution of intention. We'd still have public hearings before the Planning Commission. The Planning Commission would still recommend approval or denial to the City Council. There would still be a public hearing before the City Council, and then there would be a second agenda item before the City Council when we did the second reading. This is also important to know that staff foresees taking anything large, consequential, or that we feel may be controversial to the Planning Commission or City Council for initiation. We are not going to take wholesale changes to the code on our own. We're looking more at housekeeping items, quick changes we can make to benefit the city, its residents, or when we need to meet state law. If you'll, Exhibit 1 in your staff report actually shows what exactly we're proposing. I will say there is an error in this. There should be, if you make a motion, there should be an item D for property owner. That got dropped off somewhere in formatting. And we would also recommend that line A be changed to say City Council, just for clarity. But all we're changing is we're adding Planning Commission to item B in text, and that is only because the city has multiple commissions. We just want to make it clear which commission it is that's hearing this item. And we are proposing that staff, the Director of Community Development, or their designee by notice to the city manager. For CEQA, the proposed zoning code amendment is not a project, so it will not cause either a direct physical change or reasonably foreseeable indirect physical change. This is just housekeeping for the most part. We're changing code. This has no impact on land use. With that, staff recommends that you approve Resolution 25-007, recommending approval of case 2025-0039, the request to amend section 17.620 to the Planning Commission through the adoption of Resolution 25-007. That's the end of my presentation, and I'm here for any questions.
Thank you very much. Any questions for staff at this time?
No.
All right, no questions. Do we have any public speakers?
We have Terry Raines speaking.
Hi, I sent 2 emails with concerns about this item's presentation to the commission, but received no response. Both resolutions reference an attached ordinance, but no proposed ordinance is attached to either one. The item seeks to grant authority to the Community Development Director to initiate zoning code amendments. I understand the request, but I still oppose it. This is an attempt to quietly initiate amendments to the zoning code without alerting the commission or the public first, which is wrong. Current state law mandates more transparency, not less. Changes to laws, even housekeeping changes, shall be initiated by legislators, aka elected officials, and or their advisory appointed advisory boards. City employees are not legislators. Therefore, staff should continue to present proposed code changes to the Planning Commission or City Council to initiate through resolution or ordinance, which is the established and best practice. The staff report's justification. Staff, when presented with changing state laws, inconsistency with the code, or when trying to implement process improvements, are unable to initiate a code text amendment without petitioning to the Planning Commission or the City Council to initiate those amendments. This process entails writing a staff report and a resolution, as well as attending a public meeting, and takes away from time that staff could be spending on developing the new code text. And it says, staff foresees taking substantive and substantial proposed changes of the code to either the Planning Commission or the City Council for initiation. Trying to avoid steps because it's too much work and trusting that staff, one person, will unilaterally decide if proposed changes are substantive or substantial is BS. All changes to laws shall be initiated by a legislative body or their advisory legislative body, period. These proposed amendments were initiated at the February 5th Planning Commission meeting, along with a host of other housekeeping code amendments, some substantial, some not, by way of the Planning Commission resolution of intent. But staff did not present the actual proposed code changes to the commission to review and formally initiate, which is problematic and must change. Best practice is to provide proposed amendments to the code to the legislative body in 2 forms: a red line version of the existing law clearly showing the proposed changes, plus a second final clean version incorporating those changes. Staff, why is this not best practice not being done? The attachments of proposed resolution in the municipal code as it reads today, before any amendments, plus a little blurb at the beginning of Exhibit 1 that attempts to blue line the proposed changes to the code, but does so inaccurately and incompletely. And you're welcome for all the changes that Ken did agree to and a couple that he didn't, that I reported. And I itemized those out. Bottom line is the proposed changes to the city's code shall continue to be initiated by the commission or the council, and staff's presentation must be consistent across the organization. Commissioners, please vote no on this proposed amendment. You mentioned a few cities. I did my own research too, and you picked out Long Beach and Anaheim. First of all, just don't even, we're not in that league, and we don't have that kind of staff. So the rest of them do not allow it. So.
We don't have any more speakers.
All right. Any questions for anybody speaking in the public, or can I close public hearing? Okay, I'll go ahead and close the public hearing on item 8.4. Any comments, suggestions from the commissioners?
Oh, yeah, I agree what she said. I agree exactly what she said. She makes sense and should be up to us or to the council. So I make a motion to deny it.
Okay. Any other comments before I entertain that motion?
Oh, so if it's, Ken, so if this is denied, then it will continue to have to go through Planning Commission initiation or council initiation for amendments?
Correct.
Okay, and I guess your goal here was to try and expedite the process of initiation.
Correct. We're trying to be more responsive. And if I can answer something she did say, she said that, she's kind of questioning if we'd bring substantial amendments back to council or to commission. I can tell you why we would. Because if we're coming to one of these meetings, we're coming with code text prepared. It takes time to prepare code text, especially anything substantial. If you look at something like the last mixed-use zoning update that went in, that took, dozens of hours just writing that code text. The last thing staff wants to do is spin our wheels for 40 hours if you're not even going to consider it. So anything substantive, we want to come to Planning Commission, we want to come to City Council because we want that general, we want you to move forward with this before we spend all that time writing code text or hiring consultants. So we see this for more like the next one that you'll hear, where we see a problem where we can help out rather quickly, or with ADU text, where it's state laws that are driving what we're doing. We can continue to bring those if you'd like, but for ones like ADU, SB9, we have to do those. It's a rubber stamp decision. All we're asking is to cut out that initial initiation. You will still hear it during public hearings. It will still be noticed normally. We are not cutting out a step in the approval process. We're cutting out an early step that is common practice with cities. There are numerous cities that allow staff to initiate. We're not trying to cut you out of the equation. We're just trying to streamline everybody's time.
Okay, thank you.
I have one comment to make. I think what this boils down to, for me at least, is a matter of trust. And Exhibit 1 is asking us to trust that the community development director or a substitute of the community development director designated or noticed to the city manager. It's a matter of trust that planning is going to do what's in the best interest of the city. We sat on this commission several months ago about a billboard ordinance, and we discussed and put a lot of effort into that billboard ordinance, and then we gave it to staff to then present to the city council. And staff went ahead and removed all of our recommendations and changes to that code, and then presented it to the city council with our changes, not in the ordinance, but actually behind it in an amendment. And I know 3 of us were here on the last city council meeting talking directly about that. So my opinion right now, my trust for the process is a little bit low. And I think that this is clearly giving too much leniency over to the community development department. And as public speaker Terry Raines mentioned, legislative bodies should be the ones that are initiating zone code changes. So the city council can initiate it, we can initiate it, but it should not be done by staff. Staff can come to us and say, hey, we have a problem, we'd like to do some zoning changes, and we can then grant them the ability to do that. I think that process works. I think that works for most cities. And currently in our status of the city of Westminster, I agree that that process should remain going forward as a safeguard. So I would actually like to second Commissioner Hamadi's motion to deny the 8.4.
There's a reason why this body is here.
Okay, do we have, if I may, is Ken, so to address Chair Wilbert's concerns about the process. So if, let's say, for example, you identify something that needs to be amended, is there just a way to just bring that forward in a very streamlined fashion, just as a 1-page or 2-page staff report saying, here's the situation, and staff would like to proceed? Or?
There is. That's basically what we did with the first one. What we're just trying to cut out is that extra time it takes, because it takes us time to get things to meetings. It takes time. I know people think it's inconsequential, but if we're spending a few hours at meetings and staff reports that we could be spending on the item, we think that's a better use of staff's time, working directly on the item, not doing the pre-work to get to it. You said you are not clear, or that the director of community development may not be an issue. We'd be fine with changing that to city manager if that would make things better or more palatable for staff.
Not for me.
Okay, well, I'm good. It would be an option. But we're not shortening the process. It still has to come to the commission. You still get to do your job because you will be hearing the item during a public hearing like this. We're still going to council for a public hearing. So I know you pointed out the billboard ordinance. even if this process had been in place and we'd started it this way, that would have played out the exact same way, because we still would have gone to those public hearings where you requested changes and where we took it to council. So with all due respect, I know what you're saying, that you don't trust us, but we're not, I mean, we do want you to trust us. We're moving towards that.
I appreciate that, but unfortunately, I was here when it happened. I saw exactly what happened.
Exactly.
Our recommendations and what we've told staff to put in an ordinance and send the text over to the city council, staff removed what we did, and they put it in an attachment to the ordinance and not in the ordinance itself. That was number one. Number two, as Ms. Raines actually mentioned, we were supposed to have a meeting 2 weeks ago, and if we would have, it would have been a debacle, because the actual ordinance wasn't in the binder to the planning commissions. At this point, streamlining the process is not an option, in my opinion. We need to slow the train down and make sure the train is on the tracks. It feels like the train is being derailed, and this would just further derail the train in favor of non-compliance. So again, I would like to second Commissioner Hamadi's motion to deny, and unless anything is further needs to be said, it looks like Don's got one more point. Go ahead.
Yeah, just for clarification, because I was at the same meeting that the chair was at, and just for the record, as I recall, the Planning Commission made 11, or I think it was 11.
14.
But, and all but 3 were included. So, but there were 3, and there was one that I had made, which was not included. So it was modified. The one that went to the city council was modified. They deleted some of our recommendations, which we had been told would be included when the Planning Commission reviewed it. So there, I think the chair has a justification for the concern. I don't know that this is the same situation, though, because it's this isn't a situation where the commission is recommending. There's a formal document that we're evaluating to be forwarded to the city council. This is an opportunity for staff to just go ahead and initiate and then present what has been initiated. So I'm okay with that. And I can, having been a staff person, a community development director, I can appreciate the fact that this could be helpful and let staff focus on other issues as well. So, thank you.
We have a motion to deny by Commissioner Hamadi, seconded by Chair Wolbert, the adoption of a resolution of the Planning Commission of the City of Westminster, California, recommending that the City Council approve case number 2025-0039, amending sections 17.620, General Plan, Zoning Map, and Zoning Code amendments of the Westminster Municipal Code. Commissioner Bowie?
Deny.
Commissioner Hamadi?
Yes to deny.
Vice Chair Anderson?
No.
Chair Wolbert?
I vote yes.
3-1, motion carries to deny.
All right, we will move on to item 8.5, our last agenda item in public hearing of the night here. That is case number 2025-0040. I will turn it over to staff.
All right, last one, commissioners. So, why is this doing this? Sorry, we're having technical issues.
At least the microphones work tonight.
There we go. This computer is so small that when the PowerPoint tabs on the bottom, I couldn't read the titles. So it's going through. All right, so we're here with case 2025-0040. This is a request to amend section 17500, applications, processing, and fees of the Westminster Municipal Code. So background, staff has found that the current code text is problematic for both staff and applicants. Thus, we were looking at ways, we're still looking at ways, but this was one we found instantly where we can help residents, developers, make sure their projects aren't expired unnecessarily, forcing them to resubmit, pay new fees, for basically what comes down to a code time issue. This zoning code was also amended by the Planning Commission on 2/5/25. So the chapter regulates the intake and processing of new entitlements and development permits. This would be everything from variances and CUPs to our development agreements and our ZCAs. It currently calls for a 6-month window for completeness. This is a one-time window. There is no option around that window. A completeness review is normally just a check to make sure they have everything. So we go through the checklist on our applications. We say, do you have A, do you have B, do you have C? Is it all in line like it is supposed to be here? Great, you're complete. The problem is most of the times they are not complete. We go back, they have to prepare either new documents, new pages. With large projects, this can be substantial, and that 6-month window is too limited when people have to go through 2 revisions, and each time it's going to take them 2 months. The other issue with this is this takes staff time into consideration. So if staff has 30 days per state law to review for completeness, so they submit it, we get it, we spend our 30 days, we ask for revisions, it takes them 2-3 months to get us revisions back. You know, we spend another 30 days, all of a sudden they're down to basically a month to get us anything they need. Because the way the code is written, this project can expire while staff has it in their hands. So if we're on day 12 of looking for completeness and that hits the 6-month window, that would expire the project. There is a avenue where they can get one single extension, but staff kind of feels that this is putting developers, applicants, just through a step they shouldn't need to go to for something like this. Additionally, after being deemed complete, the code currently calls for expiration when a project is delayed as a result of the applicant's and/or property owner's conduct. What this is just, it's a very vague statement, and as a planner, we don't like those vague statements like that. We want something a little more concrete. The other problem is it's open to interpretation. So we'd rather have a concrete timeline in place so there isn't any kind of gray area when it comes to deeming an application expired. So staff is currently proposing a 3-month window after every resubmittal for completeness. This is a shorter individual window, but that entire 3 months would be with the application would be with the applicant, and it would allow for multiple windows. So if they take 2 months to get it back to us, we look at it again, they're still incomplete, that reopens the window. We are proposing the same 3-month window for an action once a project is complete. It's important to say we're using the word action because that doesn't necessarily mean resubmittal. So if during the project, we decide, we go through CEQA, the initial study they do, and it says, oh, you need a mitigated negative declaration. Those can take 6 to 9 months easy. An action would be working on that environmental report so that we're not expiring something, well, it may seem like there's no back and forth from the applicant, there's no submittal, but that's because they've got somebody working on something that is a long-term document. So we want to make sure that, that we get something back, we know that they have been working on it, and it's not this vagary that's currently in the code. We reviewed the entirety of the code section. At the same time, section 17-500-030 omitted a step in the CEQA process, so we've also changed that. It actually was too specific. It said whether a negative declaration, a mitigated negative declaration may be issued, or whether an environmental impact report shall be required. Well, there's an easy thing in CEQA called an initial study. That covers all those. The initial study leads to where they get to go, so we just changed that to, or if an initial study. It makes it more clear and we're not omitting a step in the process. With environmental review, the zoning code amendment is not a project per CEQA. There's no chance for it to harm the environment. And with that, we recommend that the commission approve Resolution 25-0008, recommending approval of case 25-0040 to the City Council. That's my presentation, and I'm here for any questions.
Any questions for staff?
No.
No?
I had one question. Exhibit A of your, of the resolution, Section D, expiration of an application if a pending application is not, and then it's redlined, deemed complete, you subsequently resubmitted within 3 months, the application shall expire. So what does that mean? Like, if a pending application is not resubmitted, after what? After, like, how, when is it documented that they get that application back? When does the
So-
time clock start running?
So they give us this is going from the very beginning. If we're looking at completeness, every time they give us the initial application or resubmittal, staff has 30 days to review it.
That's on a housing project, correct?
That's
It's 30 days
on-
mandatory? Or
No,
is it any
that's
project?
permit streamlining. So it's anything that's not legislative. So housing, new commercial, it wouldn't apply to zoning code amendments, things that are more legislative in their nature. So that gives us 30 days by statute. So that means that at the end of that period, we give them a letter, an incomplete letter. It basically goes down to checklist. It'll say, we've deemed your application incomplete. You still need items A, B, C, D, whatever, per the application form. This would give them 3 months to gather any necessary information and resubmit. That should be enough time for any project at the completeness phase, because they're not having to do environmental work at this phase. We're just looking to make sure they have everything that they need for us to review the project.
And there's no cap on resubmittals?
No, but
So if you give somebody 20 things they have to hit on their project, and they come back and do one of the 20 things, and resubmit it knowing that they only did the one, I don't know, whatever, they changed the letter I to a letter R, that qualifies as a resubmittal, and they get another 3 months. Or they get 30 days for you to deny it, and then another 3 months to resubmit. So they
Correct.
can still drag this thing out like crazy.
But it's not in their best interest to drag these out, because you're right, most of these are construction projects. And the last thing they want to do is wait on us. They want to get these through the entitlement process, because they want to get going. They've got, money tied up in loans on the land, money tied up waiting for construction. So yes, that could happen, but that would be like the 0.5, not even the 1% of the cases. In most cases, these are returned to us fairly quickly, because they need to get these entitlements going in order to preserve their project.
I would say in the last 2 years, how many applications have been deemed dormant or dead, or whatever you want to call it, deemed incomplete after a 6-month period that have had to re-up?
I couldn't give you a total number because I've only been here for the last 9 months, and it's not something we have the ability to track through our software. I can tell you I'm currently working on 3 projects that were all deemed expired before I got here. And one of them was solely because what they were asked to do was more than a 3-month, it was more than a 3-month project. They needed time to do it, and they couldn't meet that deadline. So they did it in the next basically 9 months and have resubmitted.
So how would we avoid penalizing somebody that's going to take 9 months?
Well, and we've done, this gets into a bigger discussion about past practices and current practices. Past practice was, well, by state law, you're supposed to do a completeness review and then what's called a conformity review. The completeness review just focuses on those applications. The conformity review focuses on how does this project comply with zoning code. In the past, those two processes were merged. We have stopped that practice. We are doing strictly a completeness review and a conformity review now. So the problem was in the past that they were being asked for basically, how is this going, show us how this conforms with zoning code, and it never should have been involved. So between this amendment and changing our practices to directly follow state law, that should take care of those issues.
Okay.
And the one I'm dealing with is because they were basically asked to they were asked to redo their survey and do a preliminary soils report. And those two things, that should have been done as conformity, and they would have had time under conformity with the way we're phrasing this, because they would have been able to show us they are acting on the application.
Okay. One other question, section E says extension of application, the director may grant, it was one, now they just changed the language to a single.
Yeah, we just changed it for clarity. It's better practice to use, if you can, single rather than a number. So it was strictly just.
Isn't there a conflict of the window? If they have 3 months to resubmit, why would you give them 6 months as an extension? Why wouldn't it be a 3-month extension?
And it should be. You're correct. We missed that.
Okay, so that it should, I mean,
That should be changed
you
to
would
3.
give them the double
Yeah,
of normal
no.
time.
You're correct.
Good job.
Any other questions for staff? Okay, let's open the public hearing.
We have Terry Raines.
Hello, again, why does the proposed resolution and the one for item 8.4 both reference an attached ordinance, but no ordinance is attached to either one? Why does staff want to codify the exception to the 30-day applicant notification under section 17-500-025B because it's already codified by way of a footnote in the code? The proposed section D amendments are convoluted. The first sentence completely removed a much-needed reference 3 months after what exactly? The staff report is also convoluted with poor wording, grammar, and typos. Here's staff's proposed text followed by mine where I made the missing clarification. I inserted it and corrected the errors. Staff, if a pending application is not resubmitted within 3 months, after what? The application shall expire and be deemed withdrawn, and any remaining deposit amount shall be refunded subject to administrative processing fees. If an application after being deemed complete is not acted upon by the applicant within, it should say within a 3-month period, then the application shall expire and be deemed withdrawn. Terry, if a pending application is not resubmitted within 3 months after receiving an incomplete notice from the division, the application shall expire and be deemed withdrawn, and any remaining deposit, et cetera, et cetera. If an application is not acted upon by the applicant within 3 months of it being deemed complete, the application shall expire and be deemed withdrawn. The word division can be replaced with city or the city or planning staff. If desired, I use division because that's the term used elsewhere in that code. Rewording is also needed for section E, not just one minor change. If you're removing the fixed 6-month deadline for expiration, this section still needs to flow with section D. I would suggest adding at any time during the active application processing period to clarify when an extension can be requested, which is different from a response to the notice. Still might be confusing, though, due to the 3-month action mandate, which it is. Section 17-530, the environmental assessment. Why is this amendment removing potential CEQA determinations? You said to make it clear to just do an initial study, but everyone that I've looked at other cities does spell out all of the options. In other words, after acceptance of a complete application, the project shall be reviewed in compliance with the California Environmental Quality Act, CEQA, to determine whether the proposed project is exempt from requirements of CEQA, is not a project as defined by CEQA, or if an initial study, common negative declaration, mitigated negative declaration, or environmental impact report shall be required. There's no reason to take that wording out. Adding back the last 3 is what I did. So an application with this thing could go on indefinitely forever. True, the applicant doesn't want that to happen, but I think there should be some expiration. But bottom line is, you got to fix this code or forget it. Forget the amendments. And I'd be happy to give these detailed recommendations to staff. I did not email them these, but I did email them the ones about 8.4. Thank you.
We have no more public speakers.
All right, any questions for any public speakers, or can I close the public hearing? Awesome. I will close the public hearing then. Questions, commissioners? Any other questions, issues for staff? Anything you want to comment on?
As Ken pointed out, it's not in the interest of the applicant, but if there is no, if there is no closure ultimately, where does that leave you, Ken, and the department?
We would just have an open project. I mean, part of what we always say in planning too is we can't write a code considering every one-off situation. What we don't want to do is penalize people unnecessarily. That's why we're changing this. Will there be the person who might take advantage of it? Yes, but the reasons for doing that, I mean, it would be better in staff's view to not penalize people who are diligently working towards a project and than to unnecessarily penalize them because we're worried about the one-off.
Yeah. Okay, thank you.
And if I may too, with the CEQA, the reason we remove that, there's an initial step in CEQA. You either A, give it an exemption, or B, do an initial study. Everything else follows one of those 2 steps. So you either give it an exemption and figure out the exemption, or you do the initial study, which will lead you down the road to tell you what environmental document you need. That's why we remove the rest of it, because the initial study will tell you which one of those you need. And that's spelled out in CEQA law.
So in the past, the city received a lot of complaints of the people about that expiration or penalties.
Yes, we've We receive a lot of complaints. We have had issues in the past. As I said, I'm dealing with 3 projects right now, and those all started on a negative note because the applicants weren't happy, they had to resubmit. So we're trying to be more applicant-friendly, more development-friendly, and rather than expire things just because they hit a set time period.
How many extensions they allowed to have?
Currently, just 1.
Only one?
Correct.
That's only another 3 months only, right?
Currently, it's for 6 months.
6 month
Yeah.
extension. Okay.
Currently, the code allows for 6 months plus 6 months.
Okay.
But like I said, that also counts, because it's just from date 1 to date 2, it accounts for any time that the project's in staff's hands. In the past, that has been an issue. We're trying to speed that up, but we also don't want to penalize an applicant if maybe an application does take longer to review because there's some issues. Maybe we need to work those out with an attorney. Maybe we need to work those out with somebody else. We don't feel that the applicant should be penalized for that time.
So if the applicant did not reach out to the city before the expiration, do you guys reach out to him too also, or no?
We have not in the past. We have been recently.
Okay.
In the past, if they would get when we did an incomplete letter or a non-conforming letter, there was a blurb we'd add at the end that said, please be aware your project will expire within so many days.
Okay.
But there was no direct communication saying it will expire.
Okay.
So we have been more diligent about that lately, but it's a symptom we need to fix. We need to fix the actual issue.
Yeah, I think we should always notify them properly, on time.
I'd like to make a motion, if you guys wouldn't mind. I would like to make a motion that we pass a resolution with the following changes. On Section D of Exhibit A, I would like it to be restated that says, if a pending application that fails completeness review is not resubmitted within 3 months. So I want to insert that fails completeness review, so it's very clear of why they would need a resubmittal.
Can I make a suggestion then? Because you're not actually failing to review. If we could word it, I mean, honestly, if you want to word it more the way Terry said would be more correct. That would be a better way to go at it. Because completeness review it's just a review. It's not a fail. I think that makes it a little unclear. I would recommend using Terry's language if you want to add something into it.
Okay, and what was Terry's language? Remind us.
Just for Part D. For that.
Please, thank you so much.
So Terry wrote, if a pending application is not resubmitted within 3 months after receiving an incomplete notice from the division, the application shall expire and be deemed withdrawn, and any remaining deposit, et cetera. If an application is not acted upon by the applicant within 3 months of it being deemed complete, the application shall expire and be deemed withdrawn. But if you're going to rewrite that part, then on E also, you need, to me, the two need to flow.
Yes.
So the applicant and the staff and the attorneys can actually see that flow. So we're not having, sometimes removing words in codes for efficiency is not a good thing, because then it inserts the ability for it to be vague and subject to interpretation. So I think we need the subject matter of what happens at 3 months. And for me, that's a notice of incomplete. So that was kind of my language.
I agree.
And I'm not a paid city attorney either.
We have run this by the attorney. I would suggest not changing Section E, except for to change it to 3 month, and only using the words in the first sentence that she gave us. So if a pending application is not resubmitted within 3 months after being deemed complete, those are the words I would include. The rest of it, this has been checked by an attorney.
I agree. I like that. So I would like to substitute D with the wording that Terry's actually already submitted to you, because if you guys feel that encompasses the same thing, it's just more comprehensive. So I'm very comfortable with that wording, and I would like to change the very beginning of E to match that language as well, and change it from 6 months to 3 months on the extension. So I propose that we pass this resolution with those effective changes.
I second.
Just if I may just have one other item I'd like to get your thoughts on. This would be on the resolution, and it's based on the point that Ms. Raines brought up, that there's no attached ordinance
The attached ordinance isn't, there is no attached ordinance. What this says,
It's the exhibit.
yeah, well,
Well-
there's an ordinance that says the city council adopt the proposed ordinance.
So my suggestion would be there to maybe
Yeah.
more accurately reflect what's happening, is recommend that the city council adopt a proposed ordinance based on the attached Exhibit 1, something to that
Well, the
effect.
proposed ordinance would be the ordinance we propose to city council. All this is saying is when we propose that ordinance, we're going to provide what's in attachment 1.
Verbatim.
We will, we just attach, the language in 1 is what is passed in the ordinance to the council.
Okay. Is everybody okay with that? I don't think that's really clearly, I don't think that's clear, but if,
That wasn't the section I was referring to.
Which,
If you look at the very bottom of the resolution, what does it say?
Right, it says,
I don't have it in front of me.
to Don's point, the last line says, "The Planning Commission of City of Westminster hereby recommends that the city council adopt the proposed ordinance as provided in the attached Exhibit A."
no, and that's what I'm talking about. The proposed ordinance would be what we prepare for
It
council.
says in their thing attached to Exhibit A, there's no attachment.
Right. We don't have the ordinance, we have the zoning code,
we have the-
Exhibit A,
It should be Exhibit A, not Exhibit 1.
yeah.
Oh, okay.
also true.
Adopt.
And that's, I apologize. We are going through these trying
Yeah, I
to
saw Exhibit
reformat,
A,
and
one.
It's
we're
on
still in
both,
process.
8.4 and 8.5, it's the same error.
But 8.4
Right.
won't matter because the ordinance was, or the resolution was denied.
So, Don, what are you suggesting? The city council adopt the proposed resolution as provided in Exhibit A? Or, I mean, we need to change the wording because there is no ordinance that we're looking at.
Well, no, I would say that the city council adopt
An ordinance?
a proposed ordinance, and then have it just reflect to include the language in the attached Exhibit A, or attached Exhibit 1. So we're not adopting,
And we'll run this back through the lawyers. We are in the process of updating everything. This was originally passed by lawyers, and that's why we're using the language we have.
okay, so you can work that out. That's fine. It doesn't have to be precise. I think you know the direction we'd like to go, just to make it more
Yeah.
accurate.
Okay.
But, yeah.
I see the issue. I know what they were trying to get at, but yes.
Yeah. And we do appreciate the fact that you're trying to make things more streamlined for the applicant. And the easier we make it for staff, the easier it is for the applicant, and make it easier for the applicant too, and that's good. Thank you.
Okay, so we have a motion on the floor for passing the resolution as recommended with the changes made in D and the slight changes made in E to the first line of the text and changing it to 3 months. We have a second on that? Let's call roll.
Commissioner Booley?
Yes.
Commissioner Hamade?
Yes.
Vice Chair Anderson?
Yes.
Chair Wolbert?
Yes,
4-0, motion carries.
fantastic. Let's move back to our agenda items as we close out item number 8. I lost my agenda, one moment.
Number 9.
We are on number 9. Regular business. Any regular business from the staff? I don't think so. I think we're going to move on from that. 10, reports. Any reports from staff? Also none. Fantastic. I like how it says none. Item number 12, agenda item. Matters from the Planning Commission, including AB 1234 reports when required.
Chair Wolbert, could we go back to
Sure, you need to read your
11?
statement.
Matter from staff?
You also need to read the statement on 8.5.
All right.
Sorry, I forgot that.
So for the statement, the Commissioner's action on this item shall become effective 15 days after the decision date identified in the notice of decision. The applicant and/or any other interested party may file an appeal of the Commission's action to the City Council. The appeal must be in writing and filed with the City Clerk within the previously mentioned 5-day period.
Perfect. And you want to do matters from staff?
Please.
Item number 11, go ahead.
And this is going back to what Don Anderson, Commissioner Anderson asked for about lavender. We did look into it. I'm sorry I didn't get this earlier to you. I was away from the last meeting, which would have been the first one we could have taken it to. I checked with code enforcement and PD. Code enforcement has had no noticeable issues. And more importantly, PD has done 3 checks and has found no issues. So they haven't found any issues with underage being in the venue. They haven't found any issue with selling outside of alcohol license or with any problems in the parking lot. In fact, I did a ride-along with PD right before I left, so beginning of March. And there was, funny enough, somebody in Lavender in the parking lot asking for help because they heard something on an adjacent property. But I took the opportunity to talk to the officer, and he normally works overnights. And he said he's rarely called during his shifts to the scene, and if he is, it's normally not the fault of the club.
You mean bona fide restaurant?
Bona fide restaurant with banquet facility.
Do they actually fulfill the conditions of their conditional use permit?
As far as we know right now, yes.
Anything else from staff?
We do have the new commissioner who was appointed. They are not at this meeting because they were only appointed last Wednesday. We did not have time to get them through the necessary training and paperwork. We have made contact. We're hoping to get them into our offices sometime next week because they do need to meet with staff. They do need to meet with the city attorney to go over Brown Act. But we are hoping to have them fully onboarded so they can attend the next meeting.
Okay, yep, thank you.
All right, back to item number 12. Any comments, including AB 1234, from the commission?
No.
I just have a couple of final and closing comments. I just want to say thank you all for not only the general public's participation, but planning commissioners as well. You are the unsung heroes and whipping boy, whatever you want to call it. We, in case you and the public don't know, this really isn't a paid position to be a planning commissioner. It's more or less voluntary, and we are happy to serve at the pleasure of the city. And specifically the city council. So these people up here spend hours going over staff reports, looking at the material, trying to make the best decisions possible for the city of Westminster. So I just want to personally thank them for all the hard work that they put into making these meetings what they are. And thank you to staff as well for your preparedness, your dedication to your craft and your job. And we just, we can't do this without you. So thank you very much. We appreciate it. Anything else?
No, yeah, I'd just like to thank Terry Raines for all the time she spends taking a look at what's going on in Westminster and providing that information. It's a lot of work, and her information, I think, is beneficial to the city. Thank you.
I would like to put the letter MWEA to us. Make Westminster effective again.
Make
That's
Westminster
what we need.
effective again. That is, you couldn't have said better words, Tony. I appreciate that.
I'm just very thankful that we could work together.
Absolutely. It's a pleasure. And we look forward to our empty seat being filled in the next couple of weeks. And that being said, item number 13, adjournment. I would like to call this meeting closed here. It is now 8:55. Our next meeting will be April 16th. That's Wednesday at 6 p.m. Look forward to seeing you then. Thank you. Take care. Have a good night.